we're talking about Biden, who claims to be the great liberal, white man who loves us. We're talking also about the guy who was opposed to the Civil Rights Bill. Talking about the guy who was opposed to busing because he didn't want his children to have to go to school in a jungle, et cetera, just on a personal level. And but here, they have never had to offer African people anything. When they run for office, it's not because they're offering us anything, they're frightening black people. They say, if you don't vote for us, you're going to get Trump, who is a demon, or you're going to get the Republicans, who are demons, or you're going to get what we characterize as fascism, et cetera. So they don't have to promise black people anything, except they swear they'll protect us from the other white people. That's one aspect of it. And then there's a whole body of folk who are employed through things like welfare, slavery, and programs that they create it's a whole array of folk that employ liberals.
Am I misreading this? I think your lawyer is right. Even if you are guilty of what they accuse you of doing, you're not guilty of any crime because you're not accused of violence, theft, no conventional crime. You're accused of having the wrong opinions. Am I missing something?
Well, yeah, because what they've said is that even if what we said was true, even if it's disinformation, we're accused of spewing Russian disinformation. And they have said that even if we said what we said is true, it still amounts to disinformation. So they're not necessarily accusing us of lying. They're accusing us of talking. Right. So, I mean, that's it's an illegal document. When we've appealed this thing, and we immediately went to court on this thing after 9 months of being held in a kind of legal purgatory, where we were just unindicted co-conspirators, which meant that we didn't have legal standing, and we couldn't go to court and say, hey, these people have just looted us, and they have handcuffed us, and they've shut down entire neighborhoods, refused to allow people to enter their homes. This is pre-dawn, or leave without showing identification. They've done all of these things, and we can't go to court and complain about it because we have no legal standing, because for 9 months we weren't charged with anything. They've just stolen all of these materials. They've looted our files. They've taken laptops and iPads and iPhones and things like that. So it's 9 months before they even indict us. And before that, they offered a $10 million bounty for any information that on the man, Alexander Ionov, who they said was the Russian for whom we were working, and on anybody who could provide information on us. They offered a $10 million bounty. And this is even after they've stolen, looted everything they've got. They have no case because there is nothing there. It's a totally fabricated case that they've made against us, and it's extraordinarily dangerous.
Economic development, the fundraiser, so we will be calling for resources. So Mondli will be looking after the resources of the office and everything that we're developing here in terms of economic development. So what I would like to salute also Deputy Chair Women, Omali Yeshitela, who is leading this part of economic development. So this economic development is under Deputy Chair Women, will be developing it. So I would like to salute the president of Impidam, Matsamela Odam, who is leading us internationally, and also our president here in South Africa, President Tafari Mugeri, who is our president in Impidam, South Africa. So yeah, right on Africa, there's nothing. We're calling Africans to join us, build an office, build an institution for economic development. So we will call for resources. We'll give you details when we go in, where you can donate. if you want to support us. Doesn't matter wherever we are located. That's why they are taking Chairman Omali Yeshitela. This is Gavi movement. We are continuing like Gavi did. This is Gavi lives in Africa. So yeah, I see a part in Africa. Yeah. It's coming soon. It's coming soon, Napo. Yeah. I'm going to details. So yeah, right on. You can see in Africa, we're just starting now. This is what we have. So we want Africans to help us to develop this space to be a center for Africans here, where people can get internet, where people can apply for the slavery jobs, where people can get assistance for anything in terms of the capacity that we have as the branch of Pinari. So we will be calling Africans to donate on our account, the account of Impitam, which is on FNB, 628218566062. I will repeat it in Africa. If you are occupied Azania and you want to support Impitam, you can donate on our account, and the reference, you can write your name and say for an office for FNB. The account number is 628218566062. For Africans all over the world who wants to support us here in Pinari, as we know, we're one Africa, one nation. This is the flag Marcus Garvey gave us for all Africans. So we have to support each other. It doesn't matter where we are located in Africa. You can go to tinyurl.com/Impitam office. That's where you can donate online in Africa.
This is the FBI. You have a federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant for this.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
Yeah, breach, what do you mean?
They want, I don't know. Oh, it's all bad, the money. Don't take it.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Uhuru, 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 what do we do? Offer programs of liberation for African self-determination. Uhuru means freedom.
Uhuru. Uhuru, everyone. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Mwezi Odom, and I am I will be your host, one of your co-hosts for today's webinar. But I just can't go any further without saying yes. Uhuru means freedom. And that's very important for us to understand why we are here, why we are a part of this struggle from all the various freedom of fill in the blank, right? The people have recognized that this system does not work in the interest of all. And in fact, it exploits and it is parasitic, and we are here to fight back on all of the various fronts under this anti-colonial struggle. So I just really want to appreciate everybody who has joined us here on today. And just what you've seen just up to now as we started was, how this case, the case of the Uhuru 3, which is the title of today's webinar, and we are calling on people to mobilize and get us prepared as we put the state on trial on, and so we're saying all out for the trial. And, you just saw a clip that we will talk about more, but this was, just how this case has spread out and busted out of these, of this encirclement that this colonial state is doing to try to suppress the voice of the people. You also got a chance to see, and to, just as the chairman said, that they are not accusing us. They are not accusing Chairman Omali Yeshitela. The state is not accusing Penny Hess and Jesse Nevel of us for, for like what we say, but it's for what we do. And that is what the Uhuru movement is about. And they are accusing us for having agency, because how could an oppressed people, have agency over their own lives? And you just saw a video which will show you more how you can support. But of how the Uhuru movement, the African People's Socialist Party, which has come under attack, has, is building an international movement and economic development that's taking place on the ground in South Africa, as you just saw in that video. And then, like I said, Uhuru means freedom. So I just want to really appreciate you all for being on. It was a long intro, but I just wanted to give context to what you just saw as we get prepared for today's program, which is going to be really dynamic. So I want to, I'm going to pull up a slide, which I think, sorry about that. I'm going to be pulling up a presentation that's going to share more information about, what we're doing on today. So let's see how that's perfectly not perfect. Oh, there you go. There might be just a little delay on the slide coming up. But either way, today is the case of the Uhuru 3, and we are calling on all people to, come into this process to understand how this case is one that is one of the most important of our times, and how we as the people are going to be able to fight back. So on today's call, we have Sister Afia Wanganza. Actually, if we can take that slide down so I can maybe just, because the faces are covered. Thank you, comrade. So everybody go to, thank you so much. handsoffuhuru.org/register. And this is where you can have an opportunity to register for this event and help spread the word. But I really want to appreciate Sister Afia Wanganza, who is joining us here from the Malcolm X Center for Self-Determination, Don Lawson, who is representing the official Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee, a longtime political prisoner, as well as Frank Lawrence, who is joining us here from the Julian Assange defense. But we'll be seeing a video from Stephen, Rhodey, who was a defense attorney, helping to defend the Assange case, Uhuru. And I also want to make sure that we can, as we move forward, and we can go to the next few slides. Thank you. Great. Thank you, comrade. So I just wanted to, again, tell everybody share, but really want to take a moment for us to continue to recognize our, all of those who have been, longtime warriors and struggles in the Black Power movement, and to recognize Lee Berry, Black Panther who died at 78 years old and was one of the Panther 21. And this was a very important case, just another example of the COINTELPRO and the overall, system state attack on the Black liberation struggle. So we want to salute the comrade. We want to say long live to Berry, and sending regards to your family. And, which is all of us. And I really want to, before I go any further, explain why I am here and why we can really sum up this period of time and have a strategy for how to beat this colonial state. And that is Chairman Omali Yeshitela. I want to salute the chairman, and I want to, who you will also be hearing from on today. And I want to make sure that we can continue to do all that we can to keep Chairman Omali Yeshitela out of prison, and so that we can have freedom in our lifetime. Next, I want to bring up my comrade and co-MC Penny Hess, who will be joining us here as well today. She is also one of the Uhuru 3 who is facing these attacks and these charges up to 15 years in life each, or up to 15 years of your life for each comrade, Penny Hess, Jesse Nevel, and Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And Uhuru, Penny, thank you for coming on and helping get through today's really important event. And so I just want to go to the next slide, because this is part of the work that comrades all throughout the movement are a part of. But the fight for reparations and for restoration to the Black community, this is the work of Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela of the African People's Socialist Party, who was leading the economic development projects. And this is a front that our solidarity, this solidarity, strategy under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party is bringing real economic development and reparations to the African community. And you can see this in the One African, One Nation farmers market, in the Gary Brooks community garden, which is also, located right in the heart of North St. Louis, a very oppressed, and economically and politically oppressed African community. And we want to salute, even the, creation of institutions and programs that can bring back health and joy and, organization into the African community, like this Black Power basketball court. So again, comrades, we want to invite you, if you are not a part of this organization in some way and you do want to help, you can join this Fight Back, the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition, to drop the charges on the Uhuru 3. And, part of this is us, these events are here for us to raise resources so that we can make sure that that we can put the colonial state on trial. And we have a goal today, don't we, Penny? A goal to raise $2,000. Yes.
Uhuru. And I know that we could do that. And I just want to thank you for having me on today. It's an honor to be here. I want to salute you, Chairman Wasey, for all your dynamic leadership. And I want to join in saluting my leadership, our leadership in the African People's Solidarity Committee, Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onizine Yeshitela. And just very exciting to have everybody with us today. Also, Comrade Jesse Nevel, also one of the Uhuru 3, is with us here today. Uhuru.
Comrade, right on. And
yes, must raise $2,000. I just want to unite with that, because we can do it. We need it towards the upcoming trial, September 3rd. We need, just the resources to be able to do everything that's necessary for the discovery and other kinds of needs during the trial. We want to support our attorneys who are also on, and that's going to be very, very exciting as well.
Yeah. Uhuru, comrade. No, I want to really appreciate that overview, because, all of this is, came together because of these attacks on July 29, 2022 on the African People's Socialist Party and their 7 homes and properties. Yours was one of them as well as, Penny, as Jesse and the chairman. And not only is, important to raise these resources, because they not only stole, over $40,000 of damage and stole many, items, as you saw in the video, but never returned. And so this, part of us being able to raise these resources goes towards this whole entire, fight back. And, one of the things that happened in the process is that as the state thought that they could isolate this attack on the Black liberation struggle, they did not. And in fact, what it did was that it opened up the, this huge door for to build this anti-colonial free speech coalition, which is the Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition, which is made up of organizations all around, the world around these various struggles. We invite you to go to our website, see see the other organizations. There are over 40 organizations who have united with this. We need to update this slide actually, and we want you to go to our website so that you can read the statement of unity, read our demands, and join this coalition. So if you are an individual or an organization and you're on this call and you are not yet a member of the Hands Off Uhuru coalition, go to that website, handsoffuhuru.org/coalition, and press apply. So just wanted to make sure that we could make that information, and you'll be tied to the process of building for the trial. And so we want to make sure that all of the organizations that are a part of this fight back are going to be there on September 3rd, as Penny said. Oh, next slide, where we will put this data on trial and where we will bring all of our struggles to the courthouse in Tampa. So I'm going to turn it back to you for this last section, Penny, as I know you're going to introduce who's, just a little deeper who our speakers will be for today. Uhuru.
Uhuru, I just really want to unite with calling on everybody to participate in the trial. Come to Tampa on September 3rd. We want at least 1,000 people to be there. Can't get in the courtroom. It's going to be very, very important in pushing back the state and its intention to try to put the Uhuru 3 in prison, Chairman Omali Yeshitela in prison, and we're saying absolutely that won't happen. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. We are really proud, as always, to have with us, and we'll hear from shortly, as we said, Dawn Lawson, who will be representing the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee, and that not one more year. Leonard Peltier has been in prison almost 50 years for defending Indigenous people on their own land from the FBI that had been like a military incursion on their land, and who were actively murdering members of the Lakota people. And Leonard Peltier is very, very courageous man. He must be out, and we are committed in the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition to do everything possible to get Leonard Peltier out of prison now. Yes.
Yes.
Uhuru. And we also will be hearing from the Julian Assange Committee. I know a lot has been going on with different hearings that have been going on in London and the attempts to force him, extradite him to the United States. We'll be able to hear a video from Stephen Rode, who is a retired constitutional lawyer, I believe a member of the ACLU. We'll have a video. He wasn't able to attend today, and we will be able to hear some of that about why we must free Julian Assange now as well. And we also will be hearing from two of our multi-member legal defense team of brilliant lawyers, including attorney Mutaki Akbar and attorney Leonard Goodman. So that is going to be very exciting to hear from them today, and the current motions that have gone into to the court in Tampa. We also are going to be hearing, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying Uhuru. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Uhuru, and we'll be hearing momentarily from Chimurenga Selembao to talk about the uncommitted campaign briefly. And of course, we'll be hearing from Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Chairman of the African People's Socialist Party. And we will be hearing as well from Efia Ngwanza, who will give us an update on the Stop Cop City, which is facing very serious political repression as well. So yes, this is going to be a powerful program today. So thank you for being here, and let's get started. We also always support and love, we love our supporters and volunteers and donors. So we thank you as well. And I'm turning it back to you, Chair Mwezi.
Uhuru, right on. Thank you so much, comrade. And just on that note, we want to just continue to appreciate our supporters, as well as, all of your support and your work has helped us to put this campaign out in the world, that, where it's being discussed, and these ideas about freedom and freedom of speech are being discussed on these large platforms, and, touching audiences that we may not have, generally been able to reach. So this is part of that. And, part of what is really important is that we continue to do all that we can to support our defense, on our day of court. So we also want to salute our courageous legal team, which who you'll be hearing about and from today. So just before we go ahead and jump into today's webinar, just a reminder, if you have not already, we want you to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate, where you can make a pledge to donate, and we'll talk more with you about what we mean when we say that. But either way, you go to that site, and this is where you can start helping us kick off our goal, raising and beating or maybe surpassing our goal of $2,000 for today's webinar. So let's go ahead.
Uhuru, I just wanted to, if I could, Chairman Wade, sorry, that we do have an outpouring of pledges so far, and I really want to salute some people. We've already have pledges up to $508. We have Isaac Peppers, Zaid Mohammed, who pledged 200, Isaac pledged 100, and Leslie 100, Mary Salai, I know I said that wrong, 108, and so far we have 508 pledged. So thank you very much.
Right on. Thank you so much. Salute to you, comrades. That is a great start. And, like we said, we're going to beat and we're going to, triple this goal, because we have to get to that, to that courthouse ready to fight and be bulletproof, as our attorneys have said. So let's get into it. We're going to break it down and get into our next speakers for the case of Uhuru 3. So next up we would like to turn this over to attorneys Mutaki Akbar and Leonard Goodman. As was said, they are two of the legal defense team. We also want to salute Addie, as well as, I'm forgetting names right now, so I won't go on, but it's the whole team, which is doing, amazing work. And we're really great to have you on. So I know you will just be making some statements, so I will just turn it over to you, and let's go ahead, and whoever wants to jump in, welcome. Uhuru.
Hi, this is Leonard Goodman. I'm proud to be one of the lawyers representing the Uhuru 3. I just want to emphasize how important this case is and how dangerous it is. It threatens to blow a hole in the First Amendment. These folks, the African People's Socialist Party, have had the same message for 50 years. They're against colonialism. They're against US military interference in other nations. So when did the FBI SWAT team raid their homes? What was going on? When did they raid their homes and businesses? Well, it was July of 2022, while the chairman and the other defendants and the African People's Socialist Party were organizing people against fueling the conflict in Ukraine and against this war, which the Biden administration was in the process of selling to the American people and to Congress, and trying to get us to agree to send our tax dollars over to military contractors to fuel this war in Ukraine and send weapons to Ukraine. What are the crimes alleged in the indictment? The crimes are making speeches and publishing articles that align with Russia. And it's incredibly dangerous. If they can do it to these folks, they can do it to anyone. And that's why I'm proud to be part of this legal team of great lawyers defending these folks. So thank you all for your support.
Hey. Yes.
Yes. Good afternoon. I'm Mutaki Akbar, and I'm also one of the attorneys on the case as well. Also, I'm this is probably one of the biggest cases of my career because of what it stands for and because of what we're fighting for. And as Attorney Goodman stated, we're fighting, one, to protect the freedom of speech of not only the Uhuru 3, but anybody who dares to stand against imperialism, colonialism, and not only stand against it and speak against it, but also build communities like the African People's Socialist Party has been doing for 50 years. So it's not just the talk, but it's also the walk. That's the problem. And, visiting St. Louis and seeing St. Petersburg, the radio station, the newspaper, the basketball courts, the community gardens, all of these things that's being built by the African People's Socialist Party, it's a threat. I mean, it's a threat to America, it's a threat to independence. And to be bold enough to do these things and also speak out against war and all and everything is a reason to be attacked. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing an attack on the party from the leadership on down. And we are here to fight against this attack. We understand that it's not going to be an easy fight. We understand that we're fighting against the government. We understand that ordinary people who walk in that court as jurors in September will be people who we will have to probably turn around because they're going to come in and they're going to hear that these people dared to work with somebody who happened to be from Russia, or even speak to somebody who happened to be from Russia. These people dared to prepare a petition in order to speak out against the government and what they've been doing to Black people since creation. These people dared to to organize white people and have white people help fund this organization. Like all of these things goes against what should be okay in a lot of people's minds. And I think we have to protect that freedom to do all of these things. And so the legal team, Attorney Goodman, Attorney Griffin, myself, and a few other lawyers have been working hard for over a year. It's crunch time now, as we like to say as attorneys, to really put our head down and really go after, look at the facts and look at what we're dealing with. We expect to probably get more and more evidence as the case gets closer. We anticipate that it's going to be a month-long trial. And for an entire month, we'll be literally at war. And not only defending the Uhuru 3, but also, like we've been saying the whole time, putting the government to trial as well. And what our hope is at the end of this is not only to win the case, but to also to make sure that they don't do this to anybody else. They don't do this to any other organization. And they would allow people, no matter what the beliefs are, no matter what the thoughts are, to do what they have to do. So we appreciate the support. We appreciate the prayers. We appreciate, just the encouragement. And it's not an easy thing to do. We appreciate it all, and we'll continue to fight for not only, again, the Uhuru 3, but what this organization and so many other organizations like this stand for. So, Uhuru.
Give it up for our legal team, y'all. That's powerful, comrades. Very powerful statements, by both attorneys, Goodman and Leonard. There's all these emojis flying up on the screen here on the Zoom, and it's just applause and hearts. And yes, this is really important because this is also part of that fight back, and what this represents as lawyers, as this court of law, and really pushing back and holding this whole process accountable so that all the people can win. And I wanted to appreciate, you said it's not about the talk, it's the walk, and that's real. And it is a threat to the U.S., like you said, Attorney Akbar, and as well a threat to independence, and any group or people who are fighting for that have a right to fight back and to win. And so thank you, Attorney Goodman. And I'm going to turn it back to you, Penny, but I want to appreciate you so much for your statements on today, and the whole team.
Uhuru, just wow, that was such a powerful presentation, and we know we are on the winning side. We will win. Powerful representation there, and I unite with what the attorneys have said, that if this is not taken on with such fight as we see here, that there would be an end to, or as Attorney Goodman said, a hole in the First Amendment for everyone, and that this is the interest of all people to fight for the victory of the dropping the charges against the Uhuru Three. And also, as has been said, as Attorney Akbar has so eloquently said, that this is about what the Uhuru movement, the African People's Socialist Party, does in building the institutions, fighting for the right of the African working class to have political and economic power in its own hands in real time through real on-the-ground institutions here in St. Louis and around the world, as we saw from the party comrades in Azania at the beginning of this. So thank you so much for coming on. That was very inspiring, very confidence building as always. I really, really, really appreciate the brilliant work that you have done. All of the motions, I believe the motions have been written by Attorney Goodman, and I hope everybody can go on the website handsupuhuru.org and see all of the documents that have been filed and how brilliant they are. The motion to dismiss and the appeal, just really powerful, powerful political documents using the law to push back the state. So thank you so much for being on today.
Uhuru. All right, thank you so much. And yes, we are going to move our program to even deepen what you've just heard from our attorneys. So thank you, comrades, Attorney Goodman and Akbar, and I hope you will stay with us, or if you are not able to, we understand, but we want to appreciate
I think the chairman's coming up. Uhuru chairman.
Oh, great, perfect.
Uhuru, I don't want to sacrifice the time, but I think it's really important for us to recognize what's happening here, in addition to the overall struggle that we're involved in. But what we see here is the reemergence of the kind of lawyers that we used to see in the 1960s in the high tide of struggle, where there were lawyers who understood not only the legal questions that we were dealing with, but the political issues that were that these struggles occurred in. I think is extremely important. I think that what we've just heard from these lawyers is an indication of development of an overall movement for freedom and democracy that we haven't seen in a very, very long time. It's an informed participation in the legal arena by these lawyers. And as we said, we have the comrades Goodman and Akbar who are here, but Addie Griffin, the comrade Angela Rainey, and comrade Tom Insky, some of the lawyers, and just want to salute these comrades. You're magnificent, and we've been smitten. Just incredible. I haven't seen this since the 1960s. So I just wanted to say that, and I hope everybody who is participating in this meeting recognize what we see emerging here, or re-emerging in terms of the ability of lawyers to take on these issues with conviction, and not just around simple legal questions of whether we can win in the court or not, but with convictions, because we will be victorious regardless of the outcome in the courtroom if we've got lawyers who can pursue these cases around the issues that we happen to deal with at this time of incredible turmoil that's happening in the world that challenges the entire status quo. So thank you so much to the lawyers, and I think it's just really important development that we are experiencing right now. Uhuru.
That was very important and very profound intervention, Chairman. So I want to unite fully. And as you said, we are completing the, all the goals of the 1960s. And here's another front of that. So yeah, right on.
True. John McCarthy says amen.
Amen. There is
You're here.
Yeah, Frank Lawrence.
Frank Lawrence from the Julian Assange.
Oh, right on.
Right on. So glad that we can continue to deepen that on today in this event, because we have the one of the Uhuru 3 who will be coming up next. So I know they're on the ground with you, Penny. So I'll turn it to you because we're going to hear from Jesse Nevel, Uhuru.
Uhuru, just really want to welcome you, Comrade Jesse, Uhuru 3, and just done a lot to, when called on to jump in and be sort of the Uhuru legal assistant to our brilliant lawyers, and you know, just played a powerful role in this fight back. So really want to salute you, Comrade.
Uhuru, thank you, Chairman Penny. Thank you so much. And Uhuru to Chair Mwezi Odom, Uhuru, and Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And it's an honor to, excuse me, to participate in this meeting today. And I just want to begin by uniting with the chairman's statement and with the chairman's leadership and saluting the legal team, our amazing, amazing legal team, and those presentations by attorneys Mutaki Akbar and Leonard Goodman were brilliant and just so indicative. And the reason why we're actually excited for the trial, and like the chairman said, the trial's already begun. We're putting the state on trial. We're putting the US government, we're putting colonialism on trial, and the trial has already begun, and we're winning. Yeah. And I also want to shout out the other members of the Hands Off Uhuru legal team, Addie Griffin and Angela Rainey and Tom Inskeep, who are all also brilliant. And also appreciate the Legal Defense Support Committee that's coordinated by Director Chimurenga Selembao, and which includes volunteers who are lawyers and paralegals and other kinds of researchers and legal workers that have come together to basically give backup to our legal team. We also want to thank Lauren Reagan from the Civil Liberties Defense Center, who helped find our lawyers and put together this legal team. And all of you are supporters. This campaign, this legal defense committee, is a people's committee. It's the product of incredible support that came from the masses of the people after the US government attacked the African People's Socialist Party on July 29th, and the chairman stood up and pushed forward this incredible counteroffensive. So many people donated, contributed resources, provided connections and things like that. So that's what you're looking at when you look at the legal team. It's the power of the people in real time. And our legal team is putting together a case for the Uhuru 3 that attorney Addie Griffin has said will be absolutely bulletproof. Right on. Uhuru. So I think, okay, so next slide. So what I'm going to be talking about as one of the Uhuru 3, working with the legal team and under the leadership of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, is how exactly the case of the Uhuru 3 will determine the future of free speech in this country, but also in general. It has international implications. Yeah. This is a case that will test the limits of the US government's ability to suppress political speech. It is a case that threatens to establish a precedent, as attorneys Goodman and Akbar stated, with profoundly dangerous implications. And if Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru 3 are convicted, it will open the gates for the US government to charge anyone for any speech they don't like, simply by alleging that such a speech was spoken at the behest of a foreign government, simply on the basis that the views of the speaker align with the views of that foreign government. And on the other hand, as our attorneys just stated, and as the chairman has said, the victory in this case will also establish a precedent. So they are trying to establish a precedent by pushing forward this prosecution, but in beating them, that also has the potential to establish an incredible precedent in the people's struggle against colonialism and against oppression. So next slide. So this is a quote from our chairman. He says, "Free speech is a weapon against tyranny." And the chairman said this in response to the fact that after the indictment came out, the Department of Justice actually published a press release on their website, which they don't always do. But in this case, they felt it was important to actually put out a press release after the raids on July 29th, in which they said that the Uhuru movement had, quote, weaponized the First Amendment, had weaponized freedom of speech. But the chairman has explained the First Amendment right to freedom of speech was created as a weapon against the tyranny of the British. And as the chairman has said, what is the purpose of free speech if not to be weaponized against tyranny and oppression? The First Amendment to the US Constitution was created as part of the Bill of Rights in 1789 and ratified in 1781, just a few years after the US Constitution was written by white men who owned enslaved African people and who occupied land stolen at gunpoint through genocide against the indigenous people of this land. As the chairman has explained to us, the First Amendment right to free speech was born out of the need for one group of white settlers to free themselves from the tyranny of the British Crown in order to be free to pursue their own system of tyranny in the form of colonial domination of African and indigenous peoples. In other words, as the chairman says, the so-called framers of the US Constitution freed themselves from tyranny in order to become the tyrants. The First Amendment was not intended for African people. As the well-known Dred Scott Supreme Court ruling over 70 years later in 1857 proclaimed, under US law, Africans had no rights, which white people were bound to respect. Any First Amendment rights which African people have been afforded has been as a consequence of their life and death struggle for democratic space, for democratic rights to fight and advocate for their liberation. Rights which the US Constitution, again, was never intended to confer upon African people. So therefore, as the chairman struggles for us to understand, white people have to understand that when they make this attack on the First Amendment rights of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, they're making an assault on themselves, on the First Amendment itself, a right that is supposed to be fundamental to the identity of the US social system and so-called democracy. That's what they're making a war on. And once they open the door an inch to this type of repression of speech, it is very difficult to ever go back, to ever undo that. They are beginning this assault, as they always do, with their attack on the African liberation movement. And some people have observed, if they come for Chairman Omali Yeshitela's right to free speech, they can come for you next. The more accurate statement is, they will come for you next. And that is part of why the Uhuru 3 case is so important. So to give some background on this case, as was stated earlier, we begin by reviewing the fact that on July 29th of 2022, almost 2 years ago, the US government, through the FBI in collaboration with the St. Louis local county police and St. Petersburg and Pinellas County police, raided 7 homes and offices of the Uhuru movement, including the home of Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela here in St. Louis. And an indictment was unsealed on that same day of Alexander Ionov for conspiring to recruit illegal agents of the Russian government in a conspiracy here in the United States. 4 of those alleged so-called Russian agents were characterized in the indictment as, quote, unindicted co-conspirators in this Russian conspiracy that included Chairman Omali Yeshitela, the primary target, Director Akile Anai of the African People's Socialist Party, Chairwoman Penny Hess, and myself. 9 months went by where, as the chairman said to Tucker Carlson, we were in a state of legal purgatory. No further indictments were carried out, and we were not charged with anything. So we had no standing. We had no recourse. We couldn't go before a judge and say, and challenge what they had done to us because we had no legal status in this criminal case. During that time, however, many other fronts of this attack escalated against the Uhuru movement in the form of economic warfare. Regions Bank closed down several accounts associated with the movement. Other banks joined in this attack, essentially imposing economic sanctions on the African community. And finally, on April 18th of 2023, the United States so-called Department of Justice indicted Chairman Omali Yeshitela, Chairwoman Penny Hess, and myself. We're known as the Uhuru 3. The following month, in May of 2023, we were arraigned in Tampa, Florida, put in jail cells, taken in by US Marshals, jailed in a cell. The chairman and Chairwoman Penny and myself were put in handcuffs and leg irons and brought out into the courtroom in the federal courthouse in Tampa for the arraignment. We were released on a $25,000 signature bond and had very strict pretrial, so-called pretrial conditions, imposed, including restriction of travel without permission, the revoking of passports, unannounced visits to our homes by the state, and other kinds of measures that were imposed after this arraignment. So the charges in the superseding indictment that was unsealed on April 18th included violations of 18 U.S. Code Section 951, the Foreign Agents Law. It's known as the Agents of Foreign Governments Law, which is violation of a statute requiring agents operating under the control of foreign governments or foreign officials to notify the Attorney General before acting. That word acting is important because you'll notice it does not say before speaking. It says before acting. That carries a 10-year maximum prison sentence and a possible fine. 18 U.S.C. 371 is the other charge, which is basically that you did this with a bunch of other people. So they charged us also with conspiracy to commit an offense against or defraud the United States government, which has a 5-year maximum prison sentence. So according to the indictment, in 2014, Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru movement's 50-year-long struggle for the liberation of African people suddenly became pawns in a Russian criminal conspiracy. This is a picture of Chairman Omali Yeshitela that was taken before the alleged Russian puppet master, Alexander Ionov, that they claim is the one running the show, was even born. And as John McCarthy has pointed out, his parents probably hadn't even met when this picture was taken. And for him to have given the chairman the instruction to do what they say the chairman did on the behest of the Russian government would have required time travel. So if they said that the Uhuru movement became pawns in a Russian criminal conspiracy, well, what was the point of this conspiracy? Next slide. To sow discord. A Russian plot to sow discord is essentially what is alleged in the indictment. This attack, and actually, let me say one more thing about that. The indictment alleges a conspiracy by the Russian government and U.S. co-conspirators to, quote, sow discord, cause dissension. And they claim that Alexander Ionov attempted to interfere in elections in St. Petersburg, Florida for mayor and District 7 city council as a springboard to capture the White House. This conspiracy is alleged to have begun in November of 2014, and it is based on the insulting, slanderous, racist premise that African people in the United States need Russians or anyone else to tell them that they are oppressed and have a right to struggle for their freedom. It is consistent, next slide, with the FBI's track record. The entire existence of the FBI has been one continuous war against the Black freedom struggle, going back to its inception. Next slide. J. Edgar Hoover, the longest running FBI director, cut his teeth using the FBI to attack, surveillance, harass, infiltrate, and ultimately indict and imprison Marcus Garvey in the 1920s. This is actually a picture of Marcus Garvey being led by US Marshals into the courthouse where he was being tried. In the 1950s, the FBI carried out an investigation of W.E.B. Du Bois and ultimately charged him on similar charges under a similar law called the Foreign Agent Registration Act. He was charged with being an agent of Russia for promoting a petition calling for peace, calling for an end to the development of nuclear weapons by the United States. He was charged, he was ultimately acquitted, but they did revoke his passport and inflict a lot of other kinds of financial and other kinds of damage on him. And in the 1960s, of course, there's the well-known component of the overall US counterinsurgency, COINTELPRO. This is a picture of the New York Panther 21. And the FBI carried out serious attacks and ultimately orchestrated the assassinations of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and many others, including Fred Hampton in Chicago, who was assassinated by the FBI in collusion with the Chicago police, who had infiltrated the Black Panther Party with an agent, William O'Neill, who drugged Fred Hampton the night before he was killed so that he would not be able to defend himself, and he was shot and killed December 4th, 1969 in Chicago. The African People's Socialist Party was founded in 1972 in this atmosphere to push back against the counterinsurgency and to rebuild and complete the Black Revolution of the 1960s. And just a few years after Chairman Omali Yeshitela co-founded the African People's Socialist Party, the chairman gave a very significant presentation to an African conference at Amherst in Massachusetts in 1977, which was later published in a pamphlet called Tactics and Strategy for Black Liberation in the United States, which laid out tactical and strategic objectives for rebuilding the Black liberation struggle. One of the key points the chairman laid out in that document was winning international support for the struggle of African people for independence. The chairman wrote, "We must have as a strategical objective the winning of international support for the independence position, thereby contributing to international encirclement of the international diplomatic encirclement of the US. All progressive peoples and countries of the world are in unity with the aspirations of colonized people to win our liberation. This makes it necessary for the US, which is the chief prop for the reactionary and colonial powers in the world, to pay lip service to the aspirations of the peoples for independence." So in pursuit of this tactical and strategic objective of winning international support for the struggle of African people for independence, the chairman has traveled the world for decades. In Attorney Leonard Goodman's motion for dismissal, these are some of the places that are named as examples of the chairman's international travel to carry out the strategic agenda that he put out in that presentation in 1977 that included Nicaragua in 1981, Belfast, Northern Ireland in 83, the Occupy Tanzania at the Pan-Africanist Congress in 2002, Suriname 2004, Namibia, where the chairman met with the then president of Namibia 2006, Huelva, Spain, where the chairman spoke at a conference in 2007 that was hosted by a Spanish NGO, which we'll talk about that in a moment. 2012, the chairman toured London, Paris, Berlin, Brussels, Stockholm. 2015, Jamaica. 2019, the chairman famously spoke at a debate at Oxford Union. So in that context, next slide, in 2015, the chairman spoke in Russia. And he spoke at a conference called the Dialogue of Nations Conference, which was attended by delegates from throughout the world, including Ireland, Spain, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Africa. Several anti-war organizations in the United States had representation there. This was a public conference hosted by an NGO, a non-governmental organization called the Anti-Globalization Movement of Russia. And although the Department of Justice alleges that this was the beginning of a secretive criminal conspiracy with the Russians, it was published on the front page of the Burning Spear newspaper, as you can see here, was not a secret. The chairman used this platform to call for support for the African community's agenda of reparations and self-determination, to expose the US government for the crime of genocide against African people within its borders. And again, this is the first of the so-called overt acts which the Uhuru movement, the chairman, are accused of carrying out in this Russian criminal conspiracy to sow discord. So just to back up for a second, what are overt acts? Overt acts are defined as any act performed by any member of a conspiracy for the purpose of furthering or carrying out the ultimate intent of the agreement, or which would naturally accomplish the object of the conspiracy. And just again, to remind us, the object of this conspiracy, according to the United States government, is to sow discord. That's the object of the conspiracy. So here are the rest of the overt acts that they have accused the Uhuru movement, the chairman, of carrying out in furtherance of the conspiracy to sow discord. The overt act of publishing a petition charging the United States with genocide against African people. In 2015, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement published the Africans Charge Genocide petition on change.org, modeled after the We Charge Genocide petition that Paul Robeson, William Patterson, and other Africans published in the early 1950s, which they brought to the United Nations, and for which they too were accused of being Russian agents at that time. This petition was signed by over 130,000 people before the FBI abruptly took it down after the FBI raids in 2022. The overt act of speaking at UN hearings for reparations to African people in 2015, Impedum organized a tour following the United Nations fact-finding mission on the conditions of Africans in the United States and spoke out at hearings in 4 cities. And this was a tour presided over by Muriel Fanon, the daughter of the well-known revolutionary freedom fighter Frantz Fanon. And it concluded with the United Nations calling for reparations to be paid to African people for the first time in its history. And this was one of the so-called overt acts. It included speaking at hearings where thousands of African people gave testimony about their conditions in Jackson, Mississippi, Chicago, Illinois, New York, and Washington, D.C. Next is the overt act of publishing an article in the Burning Spear newspaper. In 2016, according to the indictment, the Burning Spear newspaper published an article opposing the ban on Russian athletes in the Olympics. This is one of the overt acts named as furthering a criminal conspiracy to sow discord, publishing an article stating that Russians should be allowed to compete in the Olympics. The overt act of running for public office on a reparations platform. In 2017 and 2019, the Uhuru movement ran candidates for mayor and city council on a platform of reparations to African people. The overt act of receiving a Facebook message from a Russian. In 2018, the indictment alleges that Penny Hess received a Facebook message from a Russian person about a human rights committee. The indictment does not allege that Penny responded to this message. So that is an overt act in furtherance of a criminal conspiracy to sow discord, is that Chairwoman Penny Hess got a Facebook message from somebody. The overt act of speaking on Zoom meetings. 3 meetings are named in the indictment as overt acts that were held through Zoom to discuss what's happening in the world, and specifically to discuss in the case of in 2022, the US NATO-backed proxy war against Russia that the Uhuru movement and the chairman either co-hosted or participated in. Here's a picture from one of those Zoom meetings. And finally, the overt act of speaking at a press conference. In 2022, Chairman Omali Yeshitela held a press conference in St. Petersburg to denounce the US-NATO proxy war on Russia. That is the final overt act attributed to Chairman Omali Yeshitela in this indictment. So all of these overt acts are examples of free speech that are supposed to be constitutionally protected by the First Amendment. And what Leonard Goodman argued in our motion for dismissal is that even if it were true that these overt acts, quote unquote, were carried out at the direction or control of the Russian government, which it's not true, but even if that was true, it would still be unconstitutional to indict us on that basis, because all of those overt acts are examples of speech constitutionally protected by the First Amendment, and speech which, as has been stated, the African People's Socialist Party has been engaged in around those same issues for more than 50 years. This is a picture from the 1982 World Tribunal on Reparations to African People in Brooklyn, New York, where the chairman and the Uhuru movement used international law to indict the United States government for the crime of genocide. So our motion to dismissal argues that the indictment in this case directly targets political expression, a core First Amendment right. And if you go to the next slide, Leonard Goodman points out in our motion for dismissal that this is the first time 18 USC 951, this foreign agents law, has been used to target pure speech. Every other time the US government has prosecuted under this law, they have alleged actions beyond speech, like spying, bribery, extortion, seeking extradition of dissidents, lobbying for relief from sanctions, something beyond speech. But this is the first time they have ever used Section 951 to prosecute someone purely on the basis of speech. The government argues that it is not a violation of free speech to charge the Uhuru 3 because they say the prosecution, the law itself, they say, is content neutral. It has nothing to do with what the Uhuru 3 said, but the fact that, quote, the Russians told them to say it. Of course, this is absurd. And if we were hosting webinars in support of Ukraine or Israel, we would not be facing prosecution as Leonard Goodman states, the law may be content neutral, but the prosecution is not content neutral. The prosecution using this law is based on the content of the Uhuru movement's speech. It is selective prosecution. Otherwise, the Department of Justice would be indicting AIPAC and other lobbying firms that get billions of dollars from the Israeli government and other foreign governments all the time. As Leonard Goodman points out, the indictment itself is proof that the prosecution is not content neutral, because it doesn't just accuse us of making speeches without any reference to the content of those speeches. It accuses us of spreading disinformation, propaganda, and disinformation, which is clearly a reference to the content of the speech that they don't disagree with. And the US government goes a step further and says, as the chairman pointed out in the Tucker Carlson interview, that now, because of this indictment, the new precedent they're setting is that you can redefine words like disinformation. Here's the definition of disinformation in Merriam-Webster's dictionary. It says false information deliberately spread to influence public opinion. The Department of Justice says, well, disinformation can also include true information if it makes the United States look bad, if it reduces trust in the United States. So they have redefined disinformation to include the truth. Next slide. They have also redefined speech as action. And the prosecutors argue that the First Amendment does not apply in this case because at the moment our alleged speech is being carried out at the direction or control of a foreign government, it is no longer speech, it is now action. Further, they argue, the indictment alleges conduct that goes beyond speech, including giving speeches, publishing newspaper articles, attending conferences, and other conduct, which it doesn't say what that is. So Goodman writes, the magistrate judge is finding that speech done at the alleged direction of a foreign government rises to the level of acts and consequently loses its First Amendment protections is unprecedented and in conflict with nearly a century of Supreme Court decisions. So coming to a close here, this is a very important case for all of these reasons because the US government is attempting to dismantle free speech in the name of national security. And that's one of the last points I wanted to make, that the other argument that the magistrate and the prosecutors make is that they're saying this has nothing to do with free speech. But they say even if it did, it would be justified in the interests of national security. They say the compelling state interest, as they put it, of unmasking foreign agents operating in the United States is a serious enough national security issue to justify infringing upon what would otherwise be protected under the First Amendment right to freedom of speech. And as our attorney points out, as Leonard Goodman points out, this is also unprecedented. There has never been a case where the security interest of identifying foreign agents has been used to justify criminalizing speech. That is also unprecedented. So the Uhuru 3 prosecution threatens to create a chilling effect on free speech. We're saying that, and the US government is saying that. The difference is that the US government is saying they're okay with that. They say in one of their legal filings that should this prosecution have a chilling effect on free speech, sometimes that's what you got to do. They basically say that would be okay with us in the interests of national security. So just to summarize, the legal precedent of the Uhuru 3 case, with the prosecution of the Uhuru 3, the US government is attempting to establish a precedent for criminalizing speech simply by accusing the speaker of being a foreign agent because some of their views align with the views of a foreign government. Here is a quote from attorney Leonard Goodman. He says, the government is attempting to use a federal criminal statute to prosecute members of an activist group for political speech and activism in opposition to US foreign policy. In so doing, this prosecution strikes at the heart of the First Amendment. In short, if this case goes forward, it will reverse more than 8 decades of Supreme Court precedent prohibiting the government from targeting dissenting political speech. We're already seeing the consequences of this indictment Nancy Pelosi, right after the magistrate recommended a denial of our motion, went on national news and called for the FBI to investigate pro-Palestine protesters for ties to Russia. We're seeing attacks on Palestinians, attempting to criminalize the statement from the river to the sea. Over 100 Stop Cop City activists and supporters facing charges of domestic terrorism, RICO, money laundering, charity fraud, and even the ban on TikTok, which is attempting to set a precedent by which the US government could shut down websites or criminalize anyone who maintains a website simply by saying that that website is under the guidance or control of a foreign adversary. So I want to close with this quote from the chairman: "We will beat these charges by making an all-out offensive against colonialism. The whole world population is our jury. The trial begins now. Put the state on trial. Fight for anti-colonial free speech. Drop the charges on the Uhuru 3. Uhuru.
Yes. Wow. Uhuru, Jesse, thank you so much. Brilliant overview. And like we said, this is coming under this, just all that has been developed in this process, the political, the legal fight back. This is a representation of that. And I appreciate your overview. And I hope this was helpful. I hope people were taking notes, because, we're all going to be there on the ground, for this, really important trial, and that the people are also prepared to be able to take this out into the streets confidently and to say that this is an attack on freedom of speech. And as somebody put in the chat, we are setting the precedents for kicking the ass of the ruling class. I just wanted to read that comment. So Uhuru, yeah. Penny. And Penny, if I may, before we go to the next, but I don't know if you wanted to say anything just around the presentation we just heard from Jesse. But
well, I'm sorry.
So
Uhuru, yes, just really, really appreciate that powerful presentation, Comrade Jesse, that first of all really makes it clear that this is a total precedent in every possible way in terms of the ability to take for granted freedom of speech in this country and probably in the world. Mm-hmm. And all of the, just all the ramifications of this, and how, as people were saying in the chat, how mind-boggling lack of any kind of case is there. And it's unprecedented in its complete lack of any kind of criminality whatsoever. So, just really appreciate that. People were really appreciating it in the chat. We are going to have a discussion after Chairman Omali Yeshitela a little bit later in the program. And I'm very excited for, for people to raise questions and discussion around this. So
thank you, Penny. Yes, I appreciate. I just wanted to unite with your summation, and also to, let everybody know that we will have a time for Q&A. And there are already questions coming in. We see a hand raised here. And so we'll make sure that we get to all of that. And so just wanted to say that we are getting closer to our goal, and I wanted to remind everybody to go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. We are getting very close to our goal, and I just want to shout out a few names who are helping us, like we said, double and, reach our goal. So Carlito, I want to appreciate you for being on, and we'll say more about just how powerful it is to have you here with us today, but also MQ, Ruby, Malika, Kumba, Robert, Jan as well, Kitty, Audrey, and Sheila. We wanted to thank you for your donations to help us reach the goal of $2,000. So go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. And Penny, I did also want to just take a moment to say where people are tuning in from before we bring up our next speaker. So we have people tuning in here on Zoom in South Africa, in Texas. We want to appreciate London, Oklahoma, Fresno, San Diego, St. Petersburg, Florida, St. Louis, Missouri, Silver Springs, Tunis, Boston, Tatums, Ohio, New York, Battle Creek, Michigan, Jeffersonville, Indiana, Zambia, and Lexington, Kentucky, as well as Largo, Florida, Battle Creek, Michigan, Louisville, Kentucky, Columbus, Georgia, Fort Myers, Florida. This is just who is joining us with us online. We're streaming on Facebook and on YouTube as well. So Thank you so much for donors, who have, we're going to make sure that we appreciate and really give a full summation in our appeal. Uhuru. Uhuru, comrades. So we're going to go on and bring up our next really important speaker, and who has actually already introduced themselves, but they don't need an introduction. But for the case of the importance of who we are, I want to take a moment to introduce Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And we have just a wealth of history in the chairman, and in an analysis, and really struggling to solve the problems that concern not just the problems of the African working class, but of all oppressed and colonized people. And as the chairman said, to build the struggle to complete the revolution of the 1960s, which was a struggle in which the African revolution was involved, but also the world. And as we say, when at a time when the people were not fighting racism, they were fighting colonialism, they were fighting for power, for independence. And the chairman, through his work, has traveled around the world to put this out and to help us forward this revolutionary struggle. And he was closely, allied with Huey P. Newton up until his death, and others, in this revolutionary, trajectory that was crushed in the 1960s. And as has been said, they have not done one thing by crushing one organization, because that liberation struggle lives on. And we can see it in the work of Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who, made the first, as we say, act of Black power when he tore down at 25 this anti-Black mural in St. Petersburg, Florida, in the city hall, which was just, depicting African people in such a grotesque and, demeaning way. And, made the free speech that, after letters and things have been sent. And so we have done it all through the way that they say, but we want power. And the chairman was sentenced to 5 years there. They're trying to put him in prison for over 15 years just because of these, these bogus attacks. But the chairman has been putting it out for over 50 years, as you can see in the Burning Spear newspaper and in his analysis, his, many published books. So Chairman, I did have to, introduce you because, oh, and also we wanted to also mention, yes, thank you, 2019, when the chairman spoke at Oxford. And these are just examples of, how the world has been able to been shaped and changed into a way because of your leadership. So I want to salute you, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who will give us an overview about where we are on today's event. So Uhuru.
Uhuru. First of all, I'd like to express my appreciation to you, Comrade Mwezi Odom, for chairing this extremely important committee, defending free speech, advocating free speech, and pulling together the various forces from throughout this country and around the world in the interest of this question of free speech. I want to express profound appreciation for these incredible lawyers, because it takes real courage at this time to do what these lawyers are doing, because I've gone through periods where lawyers were able to do it because it was a high tide of struggle among the people. And so it was easier for lawyers to do it because they knew there was a struggle there. But here, what has happened is that the government has attempted to halt, to crush the inception of a reinvigorated kind of movement. And so for them to step forward in the fashion they've done now takes a lot of courage, because lawyers have paid prices too. As we know, Lynn Stewart was imprisoned for defending her client and actually was given what effectively was a life prison sentence because they held her as she was dying from breast cancer in prison. So I want to recognize that. And I also want to appreciate the fact that there's comrade here from Julian Assange committee. For a number of reasons, I think this is important because it shows also the reach, the extent of this question around free speech that we are looking at, and the assault on free speech. We're talking about journalism, et cetera, but part of what Comrade Jesse reviewed in the case and charges are made against us are cases of doing journalistic work. Actually having forums and stuff like that on our websites that so that people can get another view. If they're being fed all of this war stories about Russia, et cetera, is there another view? Can another opinion be heard? We offered that a view on our Uhuru News and our newspapers. The whole question, this is an assault on journalism as well. So I just wanted to recognize that and appreciate the comrade
who is here, who will be here, and the piece we'll hear from the Assange case. We're going to hear other things, important cases that have come about subsequent to this assault on us. We'll be hearing about the Cop City case, where all of these people are have been indicted and face tremendous times in prison. And I want to also make a real special appreciation to Comrade Afia Mungaza, not only because she's going to be speaking about the case of Cop City, because she was a pioneer in this struggle that we are talking about now around the question of speech. As a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that I was a part of, that gave rise to much of what we see now. When you look at issues like the Black Panther Party and the case of the New York 21, et cetera. It was SNCC that gave birth to the Black Panther Party that we were part of. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and the work that this comrade does. So let me just say that I want to make the point that, as our lawyer said, that even if we did what the government said we did, that it's an attack on free speech that they are making against us. One. Two, we didn't do what they said we did. So I want that to be something that we understand as well. It's contrived. What does bank sanctions to keep us from taking on the programs transforming the conditions of African people in an impoverished city neighborhood of St. Louis? What the hell does that have to do with Russians paying us to sow dissent or something to that effect? What does taking down petitions, 130,000 signatures that people have signed to challenge the United States before the United Nations in terms of the violation of the UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide have to do with the Russians? There's a major assault that's being made on us that's taken away even our fiscal sponsors at one juncture, so that we would not have the ability to have the kind of transparent, open relationship of collecting money from you that we need in order to carry out this case. No, they don't want to do that. They are attacking us, and they are doing things that will assault the struggle that we're involved in, transforming our condition, transforming our people. So I just wanted to make that point. And the other point that's really important, and Comrade Jesse did a splendid job in going through a lot of this, is the question of free speech. And to restate something, that when African people were kidnapped and brought here at gunpoint, unlike the white people who came here and who ended up taking the land of the indigenous people who captured and brought us here, we were not coming here to look for a better way of life. We've been looking for a better way of life since they captured us. And we lost a better way of life as a consequence of that. But as a part of the process of finding a better way of life from that which they left, they created this Constitution. They were running from tyranny. They were running from kings and queens and things like that, that said that the people had no rights except those which were given to the king by God. And so now we have this situation where they come, they take this land, they take these people, they have stolen land, stolen labor, and they create success for themselves. And which was an important thing. And the problem, of course, is that there is no such thing as an American without slavery and without the theft of these land and resources. So every white person who lives in this country can talk about defending America, because in a way they have no identity without that. And we have no identity with that. So America takes our identity, gives white people identity, takes indigenous people identity, give them identity, et cetera. And so this is a conundrum of sorts that has the potential of splitting people and keeping people split who don't understand what the contradiction is and where the enemy lies and where our interests are. It's stated before, when we were brought here, we had no rights. Because you cannot have a situation where, how can you have free speech for a slave? How in the hell can you have free speech for a slave? How can a colonized person have free speech? That's irrational. It cannot happen. So we were brought here, and what we heard, what they tell us, that the formal enslavement of African people in this country began in 1619.
But it was something like 1865 before that slavery was over. But it was in 1700 and something, 1791, I think, that the First Amendment to the Constitution was put forward. So if we were enslaved up until 1865, obviously the First Amendment was not for us. It was for white people. So if they're attacking the First Amendment and they use us as the vehicle to attack it, they're attacking white people. It's not that they're going to come for you. They are coming for you when they attack us. Even this whole question that we talk of fascism, it's a thing, that crisis that happens in the colonial society when the oppressed of the world begin to struggle, and it causes economic and political crises and things like that. And so you see the society shut down on the people who normally have democratic rights. They're taken from them. And then what you see is the people who normally have what they call democratic rights are increasingly treated just like those people who are colonized, who are the basis for them having democratic rights in the first place. So they attack us. We have no rights. The whole struggle of African people in this country has been a struggle for rights that are conferred upon the citizens of the colonizers. We have no rights. And so that's what gave birth to this movement, birth to the Black Liberation Movement, etc. So I want to say that. And so this is really important, a point to make, that white people who can fall into this place of defending America from us and can end up assaulting their own democratic rights of free speech and things like that, because they are so frightened about how the subjective interpretation of reality that's been imposed on us, this whole racism, fighting against white people, and white people against Black people, and you miss out on the actual material basis for this relationship, the structures that have been created in terms of social society that we live under. We live under colonial domination. Black people do. It's a colonial mode of production that's got us all locked into the same process, whether we want to like it or not. So when you say that put them in jail because they're Black, or put them in jail because they talk to some Russians, then what you're doing is making an assault on yourself. And so we are saying that's a real serious problem that we are confronted with, and we are alerting everybody that our objective is to be free, one, and that we are going to be free. We have no illusions about that. We have no second thoughts about that. They can't do anything to stop the freedom of the people, of Black people, of oppressed peoples around the world. We are going to be free. We are going to be free from colonialism. And it may sound offensive. We're not asking you to support our position on African internationalism or our political position on this question, that we're asking you to defend what you say you believe in. We're not trying to make Joe Biden an African internationalist. We're not trying to make the FBI somebody who believes in what we believe in. We are calling on the people who call themselves patriots to act upon what you say you believe in. You believe in the Constitution. You believe in the free speech, etc. You believe in the First Amendment. So even if you don't like the fact that we talk about colonialism, that we talk about genocide, that we talk about reparations, you have to defend the right to say that because you say you believe in the Constitution and the First Amendment. That's the call that we're making. So we're not making this call to try to transform anybody else. We work in our communities. We work to transform our communities. We try to bring political education and organization and ideology to our community. That's what we do. And so we are saying that you who believe in America, who believe in the Constitution, whether you believe in America or not, believe in the whole question of free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom from unreasonable search and seizure, then you have to defend us, because if you don't defend us, then they're using this attack on us. They're using this attack on us to take away your rights to free speech, freedom of assembly, et cetera, because they weren't made for us. These rights were not made for us. They were made for white people. And so that, and they assume that your prejudice, white people's prejudice, will be deep and profound enough. And that's based on how people have been taught to understand political reality in this country based on subjectivism, racism, Black people versus white people, etc., and not be able to understand the structural relationships that's got us all locked into this contradiction. That's what they rely on. But we are going to tell the truth. That's why it was important, the thing I did with Tucker Carlson. Because more than 3 million people have seen that interview right now. To tell the people, I wanted to talk to these white people, because I'm not talking some anti-racist talk to you. You can't change not being white. I don't want you to change not being white. I want you to recognize that even though you're white, you're part of the human family, and you have a responsibility to stand up for what is right and to stand up against oppression and exploitation and to stand up for what you say you believe in terms of the Constitution and freedom of assembly and freedom of speech, et cetera, et cetera. That's my message to you. So I'm not trying to transform them into African internationalists. I'm trying to transform them into true Democrats. I'm defending the democratic rights in this country that the FBI is making war against, that the United States government is making war against democracy, democratic rights, the First Amendment. And here we are in St. Louis, Missouri, tiny St. Louis, Missouri, on West Florissant, on Red Bud, of all places. Here we are acting as a bulwark against an attack on the Constitution, an attack on free speech, an attack on the First Amendment. That's what we are doing, and that's what they sent tanks into our community to prevent. That's why they sent flashbang grenades at pre-dawn to stop that. And so that's why you got to send money to this committee. That's why you got to defend it, because you're defending yourself when you do that. Everybody who does this should recognize that. So I want to say that. I think it's important to recognize that and to win people that all out for September 3rd. We can stop them. We can stop them, because this case is still under appeal, even though what is this? The guy who the magistrate has ruled against us. It's the district judge still has to hear the case, and we've appealed what the magistrate said. So it still has not been resolved completely, although the district judge usually does what the magistrate says. But let's take it out to the people. You must look at the documents that we are talking about. You must see this history. That's why it was so important for Jesse to go through this entire process, and so people can see it's ridiculous what they're charging us with. Black people have been enslaved, have been under attack. The most inhumane kinds of assaults have been made on Black people, and are made every day. Our dignity is under assault. Our right to even function and act as human beings under assault. Our right to have children under assault. Our right for our children to be happy under assault. Our right for the children to have a future. All of this is what's happening to Black people here and around the world. Africa and African people are going to be free. We're going to make this struggle, and it's your problem that you built your future on our enslavement. Because we are going to be free, and your future based on slavery will be disappeared. So you have to end that relationship and join with us to end the struggle. I want to finally say this. I'm calling everybody here on the 12th and 13th and 14th of April. The Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations will be hosting an electoral campaign school to teach people, to teach African people how to participate in elections, because they don't want that. That's why they attacked us around an election. Like somehow in St. Petersburg, Florida, with something like maybe 300 million people, we're using this as a springboard with only 20% of the population in Africa. We're using this as a springboard to seize the presidency of the capital in the United States. That's the most ridiculous, asinine stuff, and they think you're stupid. That's why they would say this stuff. But we are teaching people because they don't want us to participate. That's why there's nothing on, and nobody, no Democrat, no candidate is saying anything about reparations, saying anything about Leonard Peltier, political prisoners, the mass incarceration of Black people, the gentrification and population removal of our community. That's not on the agenda. So we are saying that we unite with putting together a program teaching Black people how to participate in the electoral process, to put on the agenda what they thought they had shot off the agenda when they killed Malcolm, when they killed Martin Luther King, and when they made this assault on our movement for power and freedom. So I just wanted to say that. I talked a little while over, but not much. And so I wanted to say those things, and that we can win. The people are everything. They're not flashbang grenades. The people are everything. Not armored vehicles. The people are everything. Not the FBI. The people are everything. And this question of freedom, free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of thought. You know, this is something that all the peoples in the world require. in order to have anything that functions, that looks like, that smells like, acts like freedom. And we have to make that happen. They're not going to be able to stop that. And I just wanted to make those statements. Thank you, Comrade Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman, that was incredible. Thank you so much for that overview, and just there's so much of pieces that you said that I don't even want to try to attempt to share, but just to say that something you said in there that was very powerful to me, just, reminding us that, you're defending yourself. And that is, something that I think also in the process of this, the people can really see how to be a part of this whole process of, overturning this relationship we have, regardless of whether we all agree on the same thing. And your call for everybody to come to St. Louis or to, participate and register for this electoral school during this period of a presidential election. There's a lot of really important information that will be put out today, but also at that convention, sponsored and hosted by the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations, their electoral school. So just deepening it overall. Thank you, Chairman. Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you. Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Blackisbackcoalition.org. Blackisbackcoalition.org. Go there.
Right on. And let's make sure our chat moderator.
President General Zaki Baruti he's going to be there. He's in the house right now. I just wanted to acknowledge that. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman. Yes, it's going to be very powerful. And these are some of the forces that you'll be seeing and hearing from, at that electoral school. Right on. So blackisbackcoalition.org. And our chat moderators can put that in the chat where you can get more information about the 8th electoral school. All right, so Penny, I will turn it back to you, comrade. I know we're going to, and I'm sure you have some things to say too, but we'll turn it to our next speaker as well.
Uhuru. Yes, thank you, Chairman, for that powerful presentation. And, just the fact that this attack on the party is an attack on the First Amendment right for everyone. This is our struggle. And, just really want to salute your powerful analysis and say that the chat was just going crazy while you were speaking, and people saying that they're going to be at Black is Back. And Zaid Mohammed said April 12th is the 60th anniversary of the ballot or the bullet by Malcolm in Detroit. I will be there in St. Louis. Can't find a better way to observe the 60th anniversary of the seminal message, X is in Malcolm is the answer. Brother Zaid Mohammed, Malcolm X committee, commemorating committee.
Uhuru.
And many others.
Yes.
So we don't have time to look, but everybody can look at the chat. Very, very, very powerful. And you can register for the incredible electoral convention that's going to be next weekend.
Yes.
Is it going to be in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Sorry. In 2 weeks at blackisbackcoalition.org.
Right on. Uhuru.
And I just wanted to move. We do have some powerful reports from various committees that are really urgent that we understand and get updates on. And then we will be coming back to questions and discussion. But I want to bring our dear comrades from the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee for a report on the case of Leonard Peltier right now. I'm going to bring up Don Lawson, who is the assistant, is Leonard Peltier's personal assistant and also the assistant to Jennifer Jones, the lead attorney for the appeal for Leonard Peltier. Uhuru, welcome, Don.
Uhuru all. Thank you so much for having us and for having Leonard's back. We so profoundly appreciate you. I am just stunned. We have gone backwards. We've had, Leonard's not doing well. The medical campaign is still ongoing. The BOP is, they're guilty of deliberate medical neglect. They are not giving him his insulin. He is in excruciating pain all the time. He says, I don't like to be a punk, so I don't talk about it, but I finally got a pain level out of him, 8 or 9, pretty much all the time. he's got an aortic aneurysm that if it will be lethal at first. They could do something about that. They've got a new procedure that could fix it. But he has not seen a dentist in 10 years. They have gone to full lockdown, which is illegal. It would be illegal for dogs and cats. They keep those men to an 8x10 cell, 5 days at a time. They don't get a minute out. They have no cleaning supplies. They live in their own filth with cold air blasted at them. Leonard wears every piece of clothing he has, and he's still cold. You know, we have been trying to get people to call their representatives, and we've had 2 attorney generals warn us about what's happening to you and what's happening to Leonard. Harlan Fisk in 1924 talked about the FBI when they started investigating political or other opinions as opposed to conduct forbidden by law. Says when a police system passes beyond this limits, it is dangerous to human liberty, which should be our first concern to cherish. Talked about secret police. The church committee said our investigation has confirmed that warning. We have seen segments of our government and their attitudes and action adopt tactics unworthy of a democracy and occasionally reminiscent of the tactics of a totalitarian regime. Attorney General Robert Jackson, 1940, talked about our nation's system of checks and balances and about how Congress is failing to exercise oversight. You know what? Congress doesn't even know what their jobs are. I have sent 8 letters to my congressman about the lockdowns. They were ignored. I tried making an appointment. He said he had no authority to file a complaint against the federal institution, which is a lie. I have opened 2 congressional inquiries into federal institutions, a VA hospital and a federal halfway house. But welcome to a totalitarian regime, the FBI. You know, they're even into Facebook. You know, it's astonishing that, you know, as the chairman said, you're not guilty of lying, you're guilty of talking, you know, or getting a Facebook message. They decided around World War I that they were going after political dissenters, and they have been given so much surveillance power officially, and then with just like the nod of a head unofficially, that they have something on everyone. The presidents are terrified of them. Congress is terrified of them. The Congress, our representatives are supposed to ensure the FBI and the BOP adheres to constitutional law. The BOP told me that their policy supersedes the Constitution. I actually tried to call the Attorney General. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I wanted to get the name of a senior official because Leonard needs medical care yesterday. His attorney, Jennifer Jones, is fierce, wicked smart. She can get him out, but we need to keep him alive so we can get him out. And he needs an emergency medical transfer. But I just wanted to get the name of senior official. And the guy said he would transfer me to the Bureau of Prisons. Said, I don't want to talk to the Bureau of Prisons. I said, they told me that their policy supersedes the Constitution. Do you believe that to be true? This is the Attorney General's office. The guy says, I don't know. They don't know. They don't know. It's on us, guys. It's on us to start making some noise. I feel like I have been running around for years. Our hair is on fire, everyone. You know, everyone is so apathetic. They take pictures of their lunches and post them on Twitter. A friend told me he's not depressed, he's despondent. Depression could be treated. We've got a despondent nation. And you guys have given me the first hope I've had in a long time. Somehow we have got to make people aware of what is going on out there and then make them care. because they really can come for anybody. You know, they came after you for the same reasons that they went after Leonard. He just stood up and said, no, you're not going to murder us any longer. You know, they don't like that. They don't like that. They went from criminal investigations to monitoring birth control conferences. It's now illegal for pregnant women to get divorced in some states. Women have become property again. And Leonard warned about this 50 years ago in a sentencing statement. And he tells me constantly, you have got to organize, you know. We are losing. Our civil rights are gone. They are gone. People just don't know it yet. First Amendment, 8th Amendment, 14th, 6th. They might as well be written in disappearing ink, the way that the FBI and the BOP behaves. There is no accountability whatsoever. And we have got to do something to change that. I have no idea what it is yet. I'm doing a lot of writing and running my mouth, but as I said, you guys have given me some hope. We need money. We need money. There are over 100,000 documents back from the Reemergence. That's what they call it, the reservation murders. You know, that reservation is blood soaked. There were between 60 and 90 people the FBI murdered.
That's right.
And there are over 100,000 documents they refuse to release. You know, what are they hiding? That's not okay. We need to get those documents released. We need to get justice for those people. And we need to get Leonard there. We need to get him emergency care.
Uhuru, Dawn, yes, I really appreciate this report. And I think that, you know, everybody who's on here wants to make this fight to get Leonard out. I know you all just got a really amazing new website. And I assume that does it have the same?
Yes, I put it in the chat. And I took your advice. I talked to the webmaster right before the webinar. You've got to make the donate button easy.
Yes.
So
yes, and I know that resources are needed. And I did want to say that next month on April 20th, we're going to have Hands Off Uhuru will be having a webinar devoted to the case of Leonard Peltier and to really put it out, because I know that there are people today, younger people who don't know what happened.
Have no idea.
Yeah. So we have to tell the story. We have to let people know. And the fact that he has been in prison almost, you know, forcibly by the colonial state, almost 50 years. And are we still doing the call-in? I just wanted to ask about that.
I am asking people to call their representatives and tell them what their job is. You know, because we get a lot of, well, that's not my jurisdiction, or, you know, yeah, it is. You know, our representatives are supposed to provide meaningful oversight to make sure the FBI and the BOP adhere to constitutional law. And they have abdicated that duty. They have straight up abdicated that duty. I don't know what they think their job is. Campaign fundraising, I guess. I don't know. But if enough people call their representative, they will start talking about it.
Let's take that on. Let's put that out. We can put that on Hands Off Uhuru as well for everybody.
Yeah, I'll pull up a link to find your representatives and put it in the chat.
Great. Yes, I know there is a link that lets people know who they are and what the address is, and you know, just also, you know, calling on people to donate to Leonard's Defense Committee. We've got to get him out this year and not one more year. We heard the conditions that he is in, and we have to come together to say Leonard Peltier goes home to his land, his stolen land this year, and that Hands Off Uhuru and the charges have to be dropped against Chairman Omali Yeshitela and
the charges.
So, yeah, so I'm just really, yes, Chairman Wasey.
So I just wanted to make sure we could say the website, if anyone wants more information, www.freeleonardpeltiernow.org. So that will
Yeah,
be
and there are contacts for the Judiciary Committee and how to take action. We have an action network. But
Great.
that man locked up almost 50 years on fabricated evidence. And the reason his appeals and paroles have held up, it's not been because of evidence. Ward Churchill caught it. The Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, everybody focused on the language. They withheld the FBI misconduct from the jury, which makes it sound like smoking in the boys' room, but it was murder. And they talked about whether if they had not withheld that, the jury would have possibly or probably changed their verdict. And that wasn't the reason that the appeal was turned down. Ward Churchill caught it at the very end. They said, much of the behavior of the FBI is to be regretted, but we do not wish to further impugn their integrity. What integrity? What integrity? They are not the people you see on TV. People need to know who the FBI are.
They do, and exactly, and you know, no matter what the name, right? The BOI, the whatever, we know, and the people are, this is a historical attack. So Don, I really want to appreciate you, and I wanted to make sure we got the website out so people who are listening can make sure that they can go there now for more information, and that we'll continue to see our Ward Churchill, also all these who are part of this board and this fight back to free Leonard Peltier. And we want to appreciate you for being on, as well as attorney Jennifer Jones, who is also joining us, on the Zoom call as well. So Uhuru, comrade,
absolutely incredible. And you guys are absolutely incredible. We also have prints and originals for sale on the website.
Yes.
I will laminate them for free for a limited time. We found out people really like the laminated example prints, so I'll just laminate them.
Yes, Leonard Peltier is a talented artist, and
incredible
artist on his website as well. People can order that, and that helps to go to the legal defense as well. So
the ironic thing about him being the one labeled a cold-blooded murderer is he is surprisingly gentle and empathetic. He cannot stand hurting someone's feelings.
It's outrageous that the anti-colonial freedoms fighter fighting against this colonial violence has been held in prison for 50 years, and we say he must come home, not one more.
Yeah, it is time to address the colonial question hard, and people are just now start talking about, is colonialism really a thing? Yeah, it's been a thing for a really long time.
Well, you know what that means, Don? That means that we are winning, and we're going to continue to, make that be the question, and the answer and the solution is to build this anti-colonial struggle. And so that's really powerful, comrade. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know we do have to move our schedule. We're a little behind, but Don, stay with us, please, if people have questions.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Uhuru.
Free Leonard Peltier.
Yes, free Leonard Peltier now, not one more year.
Not one more year, drop the charges.
Drop the charges. Uhuru. All right, so if you are still joining us, you are still with us, so we want to thank you and just remind everybody that this is, we are going to move on to our next speaker, because we want to break down how the case of the Uhuru 3 is really a case that impacts all of us. And we're really, grateful to have our next speaker join us. This is Sister Afia Wangaza, who is going to be joining us, to give us an overview about the attacks on Stop Cop City. And I know, Penny, we've seen the developments, and, we weren't, because of this attack, right? We have to be able to speak on behalf of those who are facing these bogus charges as well. And Sister Afia, who is the executive director of the Malcolm X Center for Self-Determination, is joining us as well, with her experience as an attorney. And so we're just very grateful to have you here. And Penny, if there's anything that I'm missing, please let me know. But Sister Afia, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I salute the Uhuru 3 and their legal team. I applaud my SNCC veteran colleague, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, for more than 50 years of resistance to colonialism and patriarchy, in service to SNCC. I, of course, was a member of the SNCC Atlanta Project, which drafted the Black Power position paper and launched the initial call for Black Power, which was later embraced by the national SNCC leadership and popularized by Kwame Ture and Willie Mukasa Ricks. It's an honor to join with you in this 500-year-old struggle against colonialism, imperialism, and patriarchy, recognizing the fact that the United States is nothing more than an ongoing criminal enterprise built with stolen labor on stolen land. We have to go back even before the formation of the FBI to the founding of the project, or the as it's called, when we talk about the United States, that it is in fact is now and always has been a police state, that the proposed Atlanta Cop City Uber police militarization training base and headquarters is a reincarnation of antebellum South Carolina's Citadel, founded in 1842. The Citadel traces its origins to an arsenal constructed by the state of South Carolina to defend white Charlestonians against possible enslaved African uprisings following Denmark Visa's started rebellion of 1822. It was preceded by Cato's Stono Rebellion in 1739 and the Haitian Revolution in 1791. So the struggle that we're engaged in at this point in time is not only not a new struggle, but it is a long-standing struggle that has changed players, but not changed the game. When we look at the campaign to smash Cop City, we have to recognize the fact that Atlanta is just a spoke in a global system of colonialism, imperialism, and patriarchy, and the preparation for the restoration of minority rule nationally and globally. When George Floyd was murdered in May of 2020, it set off a fuse that had been simmering for years, going back as far as 1991 with the organization of the October 22nd Coalition and the decriminalizing of persons murdered by the cops, raising the dignity and worth of the victims of police murder and violence. We see that same violence emerging at this point in time in what we call the Global Liberation Struggle 4.0. That on August 28th, 2023, 61 people were indicted with RICO and terrorism charges in Atlanta, adding another 23 persons to that list, including people who were simply raising funds for bail. The majority of those people are still held by the state of Georgia, not the local prosecutor, Fannie Willis, but by the Attorney General for the state of Georgia, in order to make sure that the message goes out that it will not tolerate any dissent in the state of Georgia. We stand with the legal teams there in Atlanta who have, like attorneys for the Uhuru 3, stood up in defense of the right, not only of self-determination and the right to the First Amendment rights, but also the rights to defend themselves and to clear the name, or Turton Gifa, the young brother who was murdered, shot 57 times by Atlanta law enforcement, claiming that he had shot one of the law enforcement soldiers who assaulted the camp that was holding the forest that is to be destroyed in order to create this uber militarization center. 57 shots against an unarmed 26-year-old brother. 85 acres of forest to be destroyed, $90 million at a minimum to be spent to build this military base while people are sleeping on the streets of Atlanta and eating at rescue centers around the city and county, presided over by persons who claim to represent the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and of such other notables as Julian Bond, his son being a member of the city council who voted for this abomination. Others like Andrew Young, who was a lieutenant for Martin Luther King, supporting the building of this abomination, standing, using their credibility to establish a corporate installation comparable to the Grayling military base in Michigan, where 13,000 acres of land was dedicated to so-called First responder training, including the use of 1033 military surplus equipment, tanks, helicopters, as well as other arms that having model residential areas for hand-to-hand combat, that this is what Cop City in Atlanta represents, with a faculty from the Israeli occupation forces under the program called Geely, housed at Georgia State University. It is the work of Sister Renee Johnson, who has just exposed the fact that it's not just Atlanta and it's not just Grayling Air Force Base in Michigan, but it is at a minimum 69 locations across the United States, that there are plans for cop cities and variations of cop cities in 47 states. It is imperative that we understand that what is being developed is a network that is enhances the 18,000 currently existing law enforcement sites, police stations, sheriff's deputy jails, prisons, state prisons, as well as federal facilities across the country. What we are talking about is a system preparing itself for minority rule and mass suppression. So it is imperative that we take a fuller view the issues that we are facing, and that it is not just, even as horrendous as it is, Cop City in Atlanta, but it is Cop Cities in the USA as a part of a global network of colonialism, imperialism, and patriarchy. Free the Uhuru 3. Drop the charges.
Uhuru, thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Sister Afia, for that overview of, this attack that, as you have stated, and as we know, this is happening, all of this is happening on stolen indigenous land. And so just even to understand the importance of keeping the colonial question at the center, and just all the lives that like that you just listed that have been lost, during this process, this fight back has to win on all fronts. And so I just really want to appreciate you, and I hope that you can also stay on during this program to address any questions, and we hope to have you back to even talk about how we take this fight internationally as well. And we will be seeing you at the electoral school. So it's just always a pleasure to have you on, and just really want to salute your leadership in this struggle.
It's my honor. Thank you.
Uhuru. Thank you.
Uhuru, and I just want to join in thanking Comrade Afia, and just laying out those serious charges, and the struggle that, the struggle that has to be pushed back, and this has to be part of putting the state on trial. And there are a number of people connected to that case who have already been in prison for over a year, and before not even going to trial yet. So I really appreciate that presentation. And we are very excited and honored to be able to welcome Comrade Frank Lawrence from the Julian Assange Committee. Thank you so much for coming on. We've had a really packed program today, and it's so great to be able to have this case. This is the first time that we have had this committee on and had this represented in our actual meetings. So yeah, we want to welcome you, Frank. And I know you're going to be presenting a video of Stephen Rhodes. So I'll just turn it over to you to to be able to go ahead and put out the video and your overview.
Yeah, well, thank you, Comrade Penny, and Uhuru to everybody. And I can just say that we really appreciate the honor and the privilege of being invited to this meeting. I mean, this has just been overwhelming for me. It's just been totally amazing. I mean, I've learned so much. And I do want to say at the outset that everybody that's associated with the Assange defense is in absolute solidarity with your movement and in solidarity with your struggle. There's a war on dissent. It's not just an attack on freedom of speech, it's an attack on dissent. And as US imperialism and US hegemony around the world becomes threatened and becomes weakened, we can expect the war on dissent to become even more vicious and even more extensive. And so I also, Stephen Rode is a fellow member of the National Organizing Committee of Assange Defense. He's a constitutional lawyer. He's a former chairman of the ACLU Foundation of Southern California. He's a writer, political activist, focusing on civil liberties. He's an author of several books on freedom of assembly and freedom of expression. And he's been working on the Assange campaign for many years. And as I just want to correct something that was mentioned earlier in the program, is not part of the legal defense of Julian Assange. That's a completely separate lawyers. But as I said, that Stephen Rode has been very active in terms of writing, publishing, being on webinars in support of Julian Assange. So he's really the best person to kind of present at this point in time. Unfortunately, he can't be with us, but we do have a video of his presentation. So if you can roll the tape, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm sorry I can't be there in person or live. The prosecution, and I consider it persecution, of Julian Assange is probably one of the most important freedom of the press cases in generations. It is a case that tests the reach of American law to indict a journalist anywhere in the world, and then to seek their extradition to the United States, in this case to stand trial on 18 counts in a federal criminal indictment, primarily under the notorious Espionage Act of 1917. Many of you may know the basics. WikiLeaks had for years been releasing accurate, truthful information that exposed wrongdoing by the United States government and other governments. And in the case of the United States, exposed war crimes and crimes against humanity. In 2010, there was a very prominent release by Julian Assange and WikiLeaks of what has become known as the collateral murder video. This showed an Apache helicopter attack in July of 2007 in Baghdad, slaughtering innocent people, Reuters journalists whose cameras were mistaken, I believe intentionally, as being weapons, and then the rescuers who came to try to care for the dead and injured were themselves slaughtered by the US military. It was a shocking video, and it was important and right that it be exposed. But the powers that be were unhappy with WikiLeaks. During the Obama administration, there was consideration of indicting Julian Assange, but the Obama administration and Eric Holder, the Attorney General at the time, faced what they called, or what is considered, the New York Times problem. How can we indict one publisher, WikiLeaks, for making information available, which is then published by the New York Times and other major newspapers in the United States and around the world? The hypocrisy of that was obvious, and the Obama administration refused to indict Julian Assange. The world moved on. We got Donald Trump, and Donald Trump did use his Department of Justice to indict Julian Assange. During that period, fearing just what came to pass, Julian Assange sought refuge in an asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where he began in July of 2012. He remained there until April of 2019, when there was a change in the Ecuadorian government, and they expelled Julian, and he was immediately arrested by the authorities and taken into custody, where he has remained to this day in the notorious Belmarsh prison, where he has remained as of this coming April for 5 years in prison without ever having been convicted of any crime. The Trump administration filed the case, and there were hearings held in late 2020, full dress hearings, one of the most extensive extradition hearings in UK history, with witnesses brought by the US government on one side and by Julian Assange on the other. As a consequence of those hearings, on January 4, 2021, a magistrate judge in London granted Julian's request. She denied extradition. She cited his mental health, which was deteriorating even at that time, and the risk of suicide given prison conditions in the United States. Now, the case could have ended there. Joe Biden was inaugurated a few weeks later, and Joe Biden, who was vice president under Obama, who decided not to indict Julian Assange, could have taken the high road and could have stood up for freedom of the press. But instead, the Biden administration, embraced the Trump indictment and fully engaged in aggressive legal proceedings. They appealed the decision of that magistrate judge who had denied extradition, and they took that case all the way through the British courts, and they won a reversal of that decision, giving great deference to the American legal system. The court reversed and found no risk to Julian if, as, and when he was extradited. That launched a second round of appellate review in which Julian and his lawyers sought to raise other legal arguments. The question of whether this was an indictment as a political offense, which should not be extraditable, or whether he was being prosecuted for his political opinions, and a series of other grounds. That case has moved slowly through the British courts while Julian remains in prison. And just this week, on Tuesday, March 26th, two judges of the Intermediary High Court of England ruled that there was validity to three of the grounds on which Julian was seeking further review. But in a really shameful and cowardly act, the High Court didn't live up to its finding that these were legitimate appellate grounds that should now be heard for the first time in the British court system. Instead, they said that if in the next few weeks the United States government gives satisfactory assurances on three issues, then the United States can extradite Julian to stand trial in Alexandria, Virginia. The three assurances the High Court is inviting from the United States is an assurance that Julian Assange can rely on the First Amendment when he is tried in the United States. Secondly, that he will be treated in no less stature, than a citizen of the United States when it comes to the First Amendment. And thirdly, that he will not risk capital punishment, the death penalty, if he is indicted and convicted in the United States. The court set a hearing for May 20 of this year to hear whether or not satisfactory assurances have been made by the United States government. The Assange lawyers, once the U.S. offers their assurances, if they choose to do so, Assange's lawyers will have an opportunity to rebut and comment on those assurances. And then on May 20, there will be a hearing before these same two High Court judges. In my opinion, this is only half a loaf. Some of the news headlines say that extradition was denied. That is certainly not the last word, because any day that Julian Assange remains incarcerated is a bad day for him, for his wife Stella, and for his 2 children, with whom he should have been reunited years ago. It is only a good day temporarily to test whether or not the United States will make any kinds of assurances, and what the High Court will consider in analyzing those assurances. I'm very concerned that the United States will give some superficial assurances of this kind, but I'm worried that the High Court does not understand the structure of the U.S. government. It is the Department of Justice that is seeking extradition. So the part of the United States government that is before the High Court in England is the executive branch of the United States government. I do not believe that the executive branch can give sufficient assurances that Julian Assange will be protected by the First Amendment when it comes to the Espionage Act of 1917, because that issue is going to be submitted to our court system and ultimately our Supreme Court. The Supreme Court of the United States has never decided one way or the other whether the Espionage Act violates the First Amendment, either on its face as a statute impinging on freedom of the press, or as applied in this particular case to Julian Assange. Lower courts in other circumstances have actually denied a First Amendment defense.
Uhuru, we just really want to appreciate this. We had discussed prior that we would not be able to show this. This goes on much longer, but this has been really, really helpful. We really want to thank Stephen Rode and Frank for coming on, Frank Lawrence for coming on today to talk about this case. I really appreciate it. Chairman Wasey?
Yes, Uhuru, Comrade Uhuru. I didn't, I wanted to say, yes, I unite. I think it was really powerful, and we have to be able to get that up so people can watch the full clip to be able to just, but I want to let Frank know that if you have any more information that you want to put in the chat or to share with others, please put that in the chat, and we can make sure that, the world knows about this. And one thing that Stephen Rode said in his statement was about, that I just made note of, about it's a good day to test. When he referenced that, it just, reminded me it's a good day for the test of the will of the people, also to fight back, against this unrelenting state that is, and we can be relentless in this struggle and we can win. So really, it's an honor, to have the Assange defense here representing, and Julian Assange, will also be free and will be released, and these, unindicted, right? These, like, no conviction, all of this will be dropped, and we have to make this a part of the fight back. So thank you so much, Frank, for being on. Yeah.
And thank you for having us.
Uhuru, Frank, and I hope you can stay on. We do have some questions, and I think some of them are pertinent to the Assange case. And I know, Chairman Wasey, we need to just sum up our appeal today. Raise
moving on to that next. Yes.
$1,000, and yes.
Exactly. So I think we might have, just some slides up so the people who are watching can, see where to donate. But I just want to appreciate Penny and I. We're going to give us an update on where we are with reaching our goal. We have a goal of raising $2,000 on today towards the Hands Off Uhuru Legal Defense Fund. And we want to just thank those who have been, donating and helping us get to our goal. And Penny, as we get ready to read those names, I just also wanted to take a moment to appreciate some of the organizations, and people, who are a part of this fight back that are joining us. So while we get that number, pulled up and everything, but Carlito Rovira of the Young Lords, I wanted to appreciate you for joining on. Some people are joining even late, so we want to thank those who, made it in time. Audrey Bombs with the National Lawyers Guild, John McCarthy with CPI, Comrade MQ, who is one of our most consistent donors. So I wanted to salute MQ with Impedum. Jan Lamont, as well as Sayero, is also on the call. We wanted to thank Phil Relato, Sayero with Louisiana United International. We want to really salute that comrade who's, never misses a step. And also Phil Willeto with Odessa Solidarity Campaign of the Virginia's Defenders for Freedom, Justice, and Equality. Paolo Cusalegui has also joined us with Los Ronderos de la Redes, as well as, yes, Uhuru Paolo. Paolo is really, really want to salute that comrade for their support here today, but just overall, as well as David Hungerford with Coalition to Save Our Homes is also here. Larry Wells with the Black is Back, a Black is Back member, and Sheila Hamanaka, who I saw on as well with the Pacifica Fightback, which is another, another fight back, in this struggle. And I so just wanted to say that before we could, move forward. So Uhuru.
Uhuru, yes. Just really want to thank everybody. We're only $102 from our goal. And just to say, could I say the names really quickly? I'll just go through it. Isaac Peppers, $100. Zaid Mohammed, thank you so much, $200. Ann Leslie, 100. Mary Stalag, I know I'm saying that wrong, 108. Frank Lawrence from Julian Assange Committee, thank you so much for putting in $100 today. Dawn Lawson from Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee, $20. Johan Bedingfield, Comrade Johan, $100. Carlito Rivera, $100. MQ, just really salute you, comrades. And Carlito Rivera, MQ put in 50. Carlito put in 100. Ruby Givelson, 50. Malika Osowo Hassan put in 25. Kumbania, $10. Robert Gallup, 30. Jan Laman, $10. And I know we wanted to, I don't know if Jan is still on, but he did have his hand up, and I want to make sure that you have that you can come on and say a few words right after this segment, if that's okay. Kitty Riley, $40. Audrey Bombs, $50. Sheila Hamanaka, 20. Leah Fifield, 100. Raya Fogarty, 50. MQ, another 50. And Allison Heaney, 25. Shakur Santwali, 25. And Arthur Fields, 50. Carol Locke, 50. Ella Bakush, 25. Janet Capron, 20. And Uhuru Baba Zaid Muhammad, $200. So our total is $1,808. And Virginia, $50. Stephanie, $40. And so the remaining to raise is $102. And Uhuru. So
yes, right on.
Oh, 27. Comrade Jesse is going to put in 27. Does that make us make it to our goal? Okay. 75. Okay.
Okay, Uhuru. So if you want to help us not have to deal with the math and just say that we reached our goal, go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. And thank you for that just most recent donation by Comrade Jesse.
Janine 25. Janine 25. So 50 to go. And did this include the 100 from APSC? Did we say that? Exactly 25, and I'll put
Uhuru.
And I will put 25 in. So we make
Uhuru. And I'm going to match you, Penny. I will also put in 25 towards today's goal of 2,000, and we'll get an update on what that total is looking like in just a few moments. And before we move into question and answers, and we'll still be able to sum up this appeal before we go, I wanted to read a comment by somebody who wasn't able to make it today, but it's just, really send a really profound message. And she's also part of the fight back because she's going to be there hopefully, and if not, we'll bring people there. But I wanted to salute Esther Hosendorf, who wrote a message, to us that wasn't able to come today, but said I would be unable to attend the gathering. But I asked others to attend, and I'm mailing cards to Biden, and my family will continue to support the Uhuru movement and the Uhuru 3. This is a good fight, good trouble. We must agitate, educate, organize. I'm 85 years old, and I have been looking for this movement. The Black Panthers fought this fight, COINTELPRO all over again. Some died, some were murdered by law enforcement, imprisoned, and forced to exile. The leopard does not change its spots. I just thought that was powerful and wanted to salute.
Yes,
Uhuru. And yes, there's some hands going up, and that's just, you know, part of how we can make this fight back happen. But we have to raise these resources to make this a really powerful case that just blows a hole in the system itself that is bent on suppressing the people. So go to handsoffuhuru.org/join, and if you have an update for the appeal, please let me know, and we'll make sure that we let everybody know after Q&A. So. Uhuru.
Wow, Comrade Brendan put in 500. Wow. So as soon as we get a total, I see Comrade Amanda furiously adding resources.
She doesn't do it fiercely. She just thinks about it.
Okay, Uhuru.
Well, while Amanda is working on that, you know, what the slide shows you right here is that all of this is leading up to completing our goal from phase 1. So coming into today's event, we had only 5,000 left to raise. And so your contributions today are going towards that 5,000. So if somebody wants to not hear us talk about this anymore, go ahead and get us to 5,000 by going to handsoffuhuru.org/join. And thank you for everybody who has helped us surpass, if I'm correct, our goal. I know that $500 definitely took us there. And so want to really salute everybody on the call today.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, Uhuru.
Uhuru.
Right.
Well,
we are winning. We are winning. So Chairwoman Penny, did you have are there any questions on the ground or things that I might have you kick this off, and then there's some questions coming in, so I'll make sure that we have everything.
Well, I just wanted to, should we ask Comrade Jan to come on?
Yes, please.
Yes, Uhuru, do you want to come on camera? Comrade.
Uhuru Jan.
Yes, victorious ex-political prisoner, Comrade Jan. Yes, prisoner of war. Just really an honor to have you with us today.
Going to bring him up as a panelist. So you might see some indication for that, Jan. Great, I think it worked.
All right, okay.
Okay, go ahead, Penny. Or Uhuru, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Well, great to see you. Uhuru.
Great to see you.
Well, it's very good. It's very good to be here. I didn't really have a question. I just, I'm not sure why the hand went up, but it's been an extremely informative and necessary event here today. Of course, the money raised is always necessary, but the things spoken about, Leonard in particular, an old comrade of mine, very dear comrade. I mean, we got to keep him in mind as well as all the political prisoners, and the work that the Uhuru movement is doing, and the case coming up is, you know, it goes way beyond just that struggle and that organization. So we all need to not only support it, but make sure that we're letting people know, our own circles and beyond, of the importance and the need to step forward and support this in all the different ways that are necessary. And beyond that, I just want to say, for all political prisoners, free them all, and for the Uhuru movement, keep doing exactly what we're doing, what you're doing.
Right on.
Uhuru, comrade. Thank you. We will win.
We are winning.
Uhuru, very powerful statement. So glad you're here, you know, with the people, so we can make this, you know, be the last time that that the next generation will not have to experience any ounce of this system. So thank you so much, comrade, and please stay on as you wish.
For people who don't know it, you should Google Jan Laman. I think that would be really important to find out who this comrade is. That's right. You can say it, yeah. Yeah.
Uhuru, yes. The chairman is saying, please Google and find out more about Jan Laman.
Yeah.
Yes.
The spelling, JANLAAMAN. Yeah. Oh, is there a question on the ground in St. Louis? And if not, we have some others that we can address. Nope. Okay. All right. So Uhuru. So we did have a question come in from Phil Wilato. I don't know if Phil is still on, but Phil, again, as mentioned, is with the Odessa Solidarity Campaign and the Virginia Virginia Defenders of Freedom, Justice, and Equality. And just, made the mention, and this is important, that was hoping to Tampa for the trial, and are there any activities planned there for supporters? And we really appreciate that question, because later in the month of April, we will be having a, as was mentioned earlier, Hands Off Uhuru Fightback Coalition meeting. And this is where we're calling everybody to be at that meeting, so we can put out, and we can be a part of creating what it's going to look like on the ground as a committee. And so we really want to appreciate that question. And for now, what we have been saying is, please, you can email us at info@handsoffuhuru.org and just simply write, I will be there, and we'll make sure that we have your information. And also, if you're listening on YouTube, Facebook, or you're here on the Zoom, on the Zoom, put that in the chat, put your name that you will be there, and we will be following up with you. But if there's any more to say about that, panelists, please do. Uhuru. All right, great. Uhuru, Penny. All right, do you want to take our next few questions?
Well, we have from Ann Leslie, who is, I believe, in Ecuador. So just really good to have you on, Comrade Ann. And Ann said, just before I joined, I was watching a press conference about England's courts looking at the extradition of Julian Assange. They were commenting that Amnesty International says that assurances from the USA are not worth the paper they are written on. Can you comment on how these cases dovetail with each other regarding free speech? Uhuru. Chairman, would you like to address that at all?
And Penny, maybe while we bring up the chairman, also John's question relates to that as well, and is, for the attorneys. I don't know if they're on, but yeah, you see the next one.
Can I just jump in very briefly on a quick response from me, that it's generally agreed that the response assurances are not worth the paper they're printed on. But remember that the UK is a subservient country to the US. It's very much embedded with American policy. And so the US court system is going to bend over backwards to make sure that these assurances are satisfactory. So they're really co-conspirators, to be quite honest.
Yes.
Could I add something to that?
Yes.
That is that traditionally what that means is that the United States is agreeing that it will not seek the death penalty, but does not take life without possibility of parole off of the table.
Correct.
Uhuru.
Wow. These are our experts right here. That's very helpful. Yes, thank you so much, Afia, and Frank, please. I want to appreciate that. And for that question from Ann as well. Uhuru.
Would you like to say anything about Ann's question?
Ann's question was
just comment on how the case of the Uhuru 3 and the Assange case.
I just think it's really important. I think that it's already been spoken to by some of the people who have presented before. I think especially from Comrade Afia, who tried to make the point that this is a global thing that we're looking at, but that's what we understand as well. When we talk about the issue that we are looking at a colonial mode of production that incorporates the entire globe, a whole social system that's based on colonial domination of Africa and the colonial peoples of the world. It's a parasitic kind of relationship, and it's reflected in the legal system and other aspects of the superstructure. But I do think that the critical issue is the people. And one of the things that's so important about what the Hands Off Uhuru Committee, Hands Off Africa work and committee have done is to pull them all together. So that puts us all on a common trajectory, so that we've done all this work for a long time without being involved with the case of Julian Assange. And now we're bringing this to the people who we work with on a regular basis, and that committee and people who are associated with Assange are now, for me, and not only with the free speech case as it relates to the Uhuru Three, but the anti-colonial struggle of African people in this country and various other places around the world. The case of Leonard Peltier, I think that we do very little in terms of really addressing effectively that case. And when you talk about a colonial mode of production and how everything rests upon that, I mean, you're thinking about a whole social system. When you go to court, Leonard Peltier is held in a cage that's been constructed on land of the indigenous people. Then that he's held in a cage constructed on the land of the indigenous people that he was trying to defend from other aggression by the colonizers who took the land and imprisoned the indigenous people. It's an insidious kind of situation. And this is why we say in many ways, what we're looking at now is a system that's experiencing an existential crisis. And this crisis is caused by the people who just want to be free. And people who just want they're fighting for happiness and the return of resources stolen from us. We look at the case of African people in this country for the duration of our being in this country. It has been a struggle for freedom. It's never been Russians' involvement or anything like that. It's just a struggle to recapture our freedom. And even when we look at First Amendment and constitutional rights, the struggle of African people it preceded, first of all, the Constitution in this country, and it preceded the First Amendment and all these other things, and continued beyond that. And and subsequent to this celebration of the Constitution and all of these rights that we look at, called the Bill of Rights, et cetera, Africans have been then fight to say, include us in benefiting from these rights that you're celebrating, et cetera. And that's been the struggle all along. And I just think it's what's crucial is that the people understand this and that we break free from this, how we've been taught to understand this relationship, this reality, the question of Africans, indigenous, and other peoples, et cetera. You can't even imagine the existence of the colonial capitalist system. You can't even imagine capitalism without the enslavement of African people, the attack on Africa, without the capture of this land that's recognized as America. You can't even imagine the existence of capitalism and the happiness of white people that they experience right now, or the social system itself. So it's a really critical question. And what has to happen, what we have a responsibility to do, is to really introduce an element of science to this question so that we can go beyond this emotional and subjective response that so many people have when they're looking at this question based on how we've been taught to understand this by the very same system that's responsible for our oppression and that's responsible for dividing the peoples, not the government, but the peoples upon whose power these extraordinary oppressive governments now exist and rely. So, Comrade Ann, I know that was, more than probably what you asked for, but I think that's the only answer, because the answer is not going to come so much from the system, except from the people. And there's going to be a time in the world where the people are going to be holding trials.
Yeah. Yes, very soon.
Can I just mention the case of South Africa? The South African foreign minister was visiting Washington just recently. She came to Chicago this past week, and she met with the Black and Brown Coalition for Palestine. And South Africa is running an independent foreign policy. And South Africa brought the case against Israel in terms of the genocide. South Africa is now has been described as an enemy now of the US, and legislation is going through Congress to punish South Africa. So I really do think we have to keep an eye on that situation. So it's a question of the US has a war on dissent, and it's using Julian Assange, it's using South Africa, and it's using the Uhuru Three as at the tip of the spear, so to speak.
Yeah, I want to unite with that. And when we talk about South Africa, we have to look at what's happening now in the Sahel, in Niger, in Mali, in
other places in that area and throughout the continent of Africa, where struggle is raging in a very serious way. And the U.S. military is one of the forces that's doing everything it can to smother, contain that struggle. And that the people inside South Africa, Black people, are engaged in a very serious struggle as well. I mean, so we have a government in South Africa that has its issues with the United States, as obvious, not just the United States, but an aspect of the, you know, the how this system is working on the one hand, but on the other hand, the South African government has never been able to take South Africa, or people in South Africa, to the World Court for genocide that's committed against African people there. And they are notorious, and they continue at this point. And you're talking about a South African government that's massacred minors, so Black people who are just looking for better wages from the mines that they are forced to enslave on, that's been stolen from us. And this is South Africa, that where more than 80% of the land of that country is still controlled and occupied by white people, a territory larger, 4 times larger than England and Northern Ireland combined. That's still in the possession of white settlers. So there's an ongoing struggle, and I agree that we have to unite with the South African government as it relates to the struggle against the United States. But the people in South Africa still are engaged in a horrendous struggle against that structure, which is a part of the overall colonial apparatus that rests upon our oppression and exploitation everywhere. Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you, Chairman. Thank you. That's very powerful.
It's really important to recognize that. We
Yes,
salute the fact
absolutely.
that the South African government did that, et cetera, but Black people in South Africa are catching nasty hell. And
That's
that
right.
government is acting as a cover-up for that oppression of our own people there. Uhuru.
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 Uhuru, thank you. Yes, absolutely. I know we're over time, and we have been going a long time. This has been really, really powerful. I did want to just read just a comment.
Is Chimurenga going to be brought on also?
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Go ahead, Chimurenga.
Uhuru.
Yes, Penny, I'll just say a few things and then you can, yes, go through the last comments and then we can move it. But I want to just appreciate that question, that intervention, and even just Frank bringing that in, and just us being able to sum up everything that's happening on the pedestal of colonialism, and that you have a state that will turn on itself, right, in order to protect itself. And that's a great example of now, you know, this enemy, you know, which is also a part of this, you know, structure. So I just really wanted to salute this question, these discussions. We have to do this more, and we will continue to do this more. So Chairwoman Penny, I'll turn it back to you, and then we will move into our announcements, which are just some updates about some other important fronts of this fight back. So
that's right. We'll hear from Chimurenga. So I just wanted to just say that John McCarthy, our comrade, our friend,
yes,
has said, question for the attorneys. Well, I mean, they're not here right now, but he's saying the UK court in the Assange case has demanded the US make assurances that the First Amendment will apply to Julian. If the United States agrees to this, won't their whole entire case against the Uhuru 3 collapse? Uhuru. Yeah. Absolutely. Uhuru.
Approach to how we, you know, we just look at this thing and sum it up. So thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, John, always for your insight and comment.
John also asked, and I want to just get this out, but before we move, he did say, when will Uhuru Planet start selling the kick the ass and the ruling class shirts? We do have we are looking for an artist, and so if somebody has ideas and creativity about how to do that, we did learn that this is where we're at right now with that point. There are a lot of creativity. Oh, do you see something?
Well, we definitely had requests for that in the past, and we need to get that done yesterday. We need to do that. That would be very popular, and we will take that on.
Yes. And then also just a question from MQ. I see here, Chairwoman Penny, that It's just asking that the medical campaign for the Leonard Peltier ad hoc, for Leonard Peltier's defense be shared again. So if that has not been put in the chat, at the very least, we can put the website, freeleonardpeltiernow.org. And if Don, you have anything else, you can please add that to the chat, or Jennifer, or those who are joining us. And yes, Uhuru. And I see a question from Kumba, Penny, and this, I think this has been summed up, and I'm sure you would unite, but just this question of, how can the government consider participation or speech as an act? And, I think we've made that clear, but I don't know if there's anything else to be said, right? But in terms of just the complete illegitimacy of this government to have the answers will come from us, and this is how we define this.
But let me say something about that. I think it's really important because this assault on free speech. You see, the government has a dilemma. It has always had a dilemma since the African people fought our way into something that's supposed to represent freedom for Black people. I mean, the fact that we were not dealt with, like with the Constitution is the basis for not only what we talk about 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments and things like that, but also Civil Rights Bill and Voting Rights Act, et cetera. These are statements that Black people were not covered by the Constitution. And so the thing is that the dilemma is at the point that the government, and this is the issue of the people too, because one of the reasons it became extremely necessary for the United States government to give the appearance of offering rights to Black people was the contest that the United States was involved in, not only by struggle of African people in this country, because I mean African people primarily, even though there were a few white people who were involved, it was African people primarily who were involved in the struggle, but also the United States was involved in the struggle with Russia, Soviet Union. And this was the question of which was the best social system, whether it was what Russian communism, or American capitalism, and what have you. And there's this struggle that they were waging into international arena to prove which was the best system. And then of course, the Soviets and everybody else was holding up as evidence of how rotten and foul the system was in the United States with the treatment of Black people. And all the people were looking at it on TV of our churches being bombed, our children being murdered, fire hoses, high-powered fire hoses used against children. This was fodder for the people who were contending with the United States for what is the best system. So this is part of the thing that pushed it and made it necessary for at least to give the appearance of rights for Black people in this country. Part of it, of course, Black people were not letting up in terms of our struggle here on the ground. But that was part of it. So, but these rights were what I think the lawyers like to refer to, and we did at one juncture in the struggle, made a difference in terms of de jure rights or law and rights and rights by law, and de facto what has happened in the real world. What's the deal? What's the fact? So there was de facto, we didn't have these rights and never had these rights, et cetera. So that has always been like a part of the contest. So now we're at this place where it's extremely important to be able to display to the world, like what this struggle that we are involved in is about. It's not about making white people like us or fighting against racism. This feeds into the whole garbage about the supremacy of white people, that they can murder us, shoot us, bomb us, kill us, and all we want to do is make white people like us. That's the most ridiculous stuff. And they will shoot you and harm you if you don't take up that line. So they move the goalpost on us from time to time because they got a dilemma. Their dilemma is, on the one hand, they said we're supposed to be free. So they can't say, well, we are bombing you at 5 o'clock in the morning, niggas, because you said something we don't like. They have to say that free speech is still real, and we're not attacking you based on speech. We're attacking you for some other bogus reason that somehow you're working for the Russian. So in terms of what is going to be the next thing they use, or the next thing they use, or the next thing, it depends on the crisis they're experiencing and the struggles of the people, because they always come up with some reason. They'll change the law in a minute. We got lawyers coming to fear on there. Remember when the whole thing used to be, I forgot how suspicions about stopping and searching people based on what reasonable, say it again?
Yeah, they made it reasonable suspicion, but and what is reasonable suspicion is any probable cause. Now they made it reasonable suspicion. What is reasonable? Anything the cop says is it makes them suspicion. They've just moved the goalposts all the time to facilitate this assault on the rights that white people are sacrificing in many instances because they're dumb enough and stupid enough to go along with this notion of their supremacy over every goddamn body else, and everybody else is somehow infringing, on their rights, etc. This is why we have to take science into this issue and move away from this racism garbage, because it feeds into this notion of subjectivism and white people having a subjective response as opposed to being able to look at something from a more scientific approach. So I hope that's spoke a bit to what it is that was just raised.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And actually, also, Kumba said the chairman understood the question.
Okay.
And Frank Lawrence is saying Pompeo redefined WikiLeaks as hostile non-state intelligence agency to justify the indictment.
Yeah. So they come up with, they make a law. If there wasn't one there, then that's what this is what's so treacherous. They say it's ruled by law. That this is what they call it. This is what is the term they use by rule? No, they have a term that they like to say that makes the United States special as compared to others. Something about government rule by law, something to that effect. And it's true, because they just change the damn law anytime it doesn't, so here's the law now. And so we go to court now, and you got a magistrate that's saying that, okay, speech is no longer speech, it's actions, rule by, and so that's the law.
The phrase is rule of law.
Rule of law, yeah. And without that, they call it lynching.
Right.
Uhuru,
Chairman. Yes, very powerful. Thank you, Comrade Kumba, for your question, and thank you for our panelists, for just, engaging and just, being a part of this discussion. And so I think it is time for us to move. There are no more questions that I see here. And I just want to salute all the questions and comments that are happening in the chat here on Zoom that we won't be able to get to today, but just really want to salute the participation from everybody who is, joining on today.
Yes, great, just input in the whole chat today. It was powerful and, just great discussion and engagement. Really appreciate it, and, contributed a lot.
Yes, definitely. So right now I'd like to go ahead.
Look at my baby.
He's in the back. Okay, so that's enough of what's going on over here, but we want to say, comrades, we have some announcements to make. And I do want to bring up also, who will kind of kick off our announcements, one of the comrades. So I would like to invite up these two, and then I'll let you know when it's your time to just let us know what's happening. But Comrade Chimurenga, and then I believe also maybe Chair Jesse also has something to add for one of the announcement slides. But I want to call on everybody to join the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. This is, this is the anti-colonial free speech movement of our time. This is where we take all of these struggles under one strategic, fight back, and we want you to join the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. So next slide, please. If you go to handsoffuhuru.org/coalition, you can join this this non-sectarian anti-colonial free speech coalition. Check out, who is part of this. Part of this, fight back has been defending the Tampa 5, as we says, not one more year with Leonard Peltier. We want to salute. Next slide, please. We want to also salute the, the release of Alex Saab and the continued struggle of the, of the movement for the people of Venezuela. And we want to salute our comrades from Unión del Barrio, who are also facing, charges as well for being, educators and speaking out in defense of Palestine and calling the colonial question out. And, the struggle of, students who also, are, standing for the right to free speech and calling out and exposing the state. We want to salute Fatima, as well as the, Cuba Solidarity organizations and committees who are also, headed on a delegation this year that will continue to let the U.S. know that we see it all and we say hands off Cuba, and the Stop Cop City and those who have joined us in the past to, speak on this as well. And we just wanted to salute some of our member organizations. So thank you all. And also thank you to Lance Cruz, who put some more information in the chat earlier about just all the other cop cities. So this is what we want to come under this fight back. So join this, go to handsoffwahoo.org/coalition and mark the calendars to come to the trial in September in Tampa, Florida. As we say, we will put the state on trial. And part of this fight back also coming up in the fall season will be the elections. And so this is a opportunity for us to also, I'm going to bring up Comrade Chimurenga, who's going to be sharing with us about this upcoming, or this vote, Make Our Votes Count campaign. And this is a growing committee that is, redefining what this fight back looks like. So I want to give a chance for Comrade Chimurenga to also say a few words about this. And those of you who were with us on our March 19th webinar, you would have got an overview of this, but we're going to say more today briefly. So thank you, Chimurenga, for joining us. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you, Chair Mwezi. So the Make Our Votes Count campaign is a campaign to make Black votes count. And anybody who can join us in demanding reparations to the African community, dropping the charges against the Uhuru Three, Chairman Omali, Penny, Hess, and Jesse Nevel, freeing Leonard Peltier and all political prisoners, ending gentrification that pushes Black people and other colonized people out of our communities, ending the murders of Black people in the streets of America. Those are the kind of issues that we are fighting for in the Make Our Votes Count campaign. And what we are doing is asking people to vote uncommitted in the Democratic presidential primaries that are still coming up. And one of those primaries is coming up on Tuesday, a very important one in the very large state of New York. And currently we're organizing a press conference for 11 a.m. in front of the New York City Hall. At 11 a.m. we have Charles Barron and Betty Davis. They will be two of the speakers. And we're trying to get December 12th on that panel of speakers as well in front of City Hall. So if we can convince thousands of people to vote uncommitted, we can have a big impact on this general election. And you might be saying, well, Biden wrapped up the primary delegates for the Democratic nomination, and so did Trump for the Republicans. But we say the election that's happening in November can be impacted by forcing the issues of the Black community onto the agenda. Reparations to the African community is not on the agenda of the Democratic Party. Stopping the genocide against the people of Palestine that's being created by Israel and redirecting those to stop funding Israel and redirect those funds to reparations for African people, that's not on the Democratic Party agenda. But we want to force it onto that agenda. And we can do that by voting uncommitted in the upcoming New York primary and several other primaries that we targeted, like Pennsylvania, Oregon, and that's the name of few. So if you are interested in getting into this fight, and I believe it's very important that we do so. By the way, in Michigan, Palestinians organized an uncommitted vote, and they had a goal of getting 10,000 people to vote uncommitted, and they got 110,000 people to vote uncommitted. So we know it has power and potential. And we want to really ask people to donate at our Cash App, $ Make Our Votes Count. Go to our website. You can, it's a Google site. Please go to it. And if you want to email us, you can email us at makeourvotescount@gmail.com. So if you're in New York, please vote uncommitted. for those issues that are facing the African community. Uhuru.
So much, Chair Chimurenga. And if people have questions, again, please email and also put it in the chat, and we'll make sure that we follow up with you. But really want to salute this really important, part of this fight back, and yes, holding all forces accountable.
I think it's really important to say that while we're talking about make the Black vote count, we're talking about everybody who supports the struggle of African people should participate in this process. We want everybody to do that. Just like everybody who was not Palestinian was able to unite with the Palestinians by voting uncommitted. And people should come on, go to the sites that's been mentioned. So if you want to participate in any fashion at all, in the campaign, if you want to play any role at all in the committees, etc., please make that known so that we can go ahead and pursue this. Uhuru.
Thank you, Chairman. So yes, please email make our votes with an S count at gmail.com. Uhuru. All right, so next up, the next quick announcement, we're going to give an update on the upcoming march on the DNC, and we have Jesse Nevel, who will be giving us a update about that. And for all these events and more details, you will continue to go to handsoffuhuru.org/events, where we will keep them updated. But go ahead, Jesse. Thank you so much. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chair Mwezi, I just want to again salute you and Chairwoman Penny and the chairman for this great meeting, and everybody who was a part of it today. And yes, I am excited to announce that the Hands Off Uhuru campaign, along with the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, are endorsing and co-sponsoring the March on the Democratic National Convention in Chicago this year. The March on the DNC is taking place in Chicago on August 9th. And on April 13th, some of us will be participating in a conference in Chicago to mobilize for this, and speaking at least 2 times during that conference to the attendees on the significance of the case of the Uhuru 3. So that's going to be in Chicago, April 13th, and it's taking place at the 300 South Ashland Avenue. You can find more information at marchonthednc2024.org. And the following day, I also wanted to let people know, especially our friends and supporters in Chicago, that there will be a panel on the case of the Uhuru 3 on Sunday, April 14th at the Midwestern Regional Conference of the National Lawyers Guild, which is taking place at Loyola University. And we will send out more information about that. I will be honored to be in attendance at that, and our attorney, Leonard Goodman, who's based in Chicago, will be speaking on that panel. That's going to be at 10:45 Sunday morning at the regional conference of the National Lawyers Guild in Chicago. Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you so much for that information, comrade. And yes, we want the people to be out and meet. Let's continue to occupy all of this, democratic space, the so-called democratic space, in our interest. So thank you, Chair Jesse, for that update. And the other announcements that we have, just briefly, we want to let everybody know to stay connected to the campaign. Go to handsoffuhuru.org, join us, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and also, or X, I guess it's called for Twitter. But, stay connected, like our page, share our page, tag our page. This is the kind of a work that we can continue to do ongoing to keep this, in front of the people. Also want to, yes.
May I make an addition that also the case Uhuru 3 will be raised at the UNAC conference. Maybe you all mentioned and I didn't hear it, but the weekend of April 5th and 7th, actually, and specifically on Saturday, April the 6th, with Dr. Aisha Fields representing and speaking on behalf of the Uhuru 3. So if you would get the word to people who are in Minneapolis at the International Continental Hotel, we urge participation and support.
Uhuru.
You covered that slide much better than I would have, Sister Afia. Thank you so much. So thank you for helping me with that. That was great. And that is information is also available at unatconference2024.org. And also we have this information on the Hands Off Uhuru calendar as well. So thank you, Sister Afia. And yes, we look forward to getting the word out on the ground in Minneapolis about this conference. So we also want to, those of you who, the month of March also, we just wanted to, salute this month that also was able to hold a, really important memorial for Brother Ralph Pointer, and just very powerful program. And so we've added that to the Hands Off page. You can go back and watch that. It's on the homepage at handsoffuhuru.org if you want to just see all the people that were there to really support and salute this revolutionary warrior, and be in solidarity with Mumia Abu-Jamal and the Leonard Peltier defense and all political prisoners. So go to handsoffuhuru.org for that, as well as next on April 13th and 14th, which has been mentioned, the ballot and the bullet. This time, till it's won, the Black is Back Coalition for Social Justice, Peace, and Reparations is holding its 8th electoral campaign school here. Pictured as Sister Afia Wanganza, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, and Mukasa Ricks from, actually from this past Black People's March in November of last year, but just, again, longtime members of the Student the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committees, aka SNCC, from the 1960s till today. We will, as we say, this time till it's won. So go to blackisbackcoalition.org for more information about how to register and get on the ground in St. Louis for the 8th electoral school. And as was mentioned earlier, the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee and the Hands Off Uhuru, we are putting a really important webinar and fundraiser to put forward the demand to free Leonard Peltier this year, not one more year. And this is called The Case of Leonard Peltier: Why Our Liberty is Bound to His Liberty. So we want you to go to our website. We're going to provide more information about how to register for this event, and make sure that you can all be there as well. This will be an online event up to this point. So again, comrades, let's make it there to Tampa. Let us know that you're going to be there, and more information on our calendar will inform you. And I believe it's April 10th, which will be our next Hands Off Coalition meeting. So mark your calendars. And before we close, I just want to appreciate and invite anyone else to come up. And Chairman, if you want to say a last few words, just closing words, but I did want to also appreciate and just really salute our attorneys, Leonard Goodman and Akbar. I want to also salute the presentations that have preceded me as well, in terms also Don with the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee, Sister Afia Wanganza, as well as Frank Lawrence for joining us on behalf of Stephen Rodet and the whole Julian Assange defense. So just really powerful. And John and Ayan also for joining us on today. So any closing words, Chairman, Chairwoman Penny, and the Uhuru 3, Jesse Nevel. I see you on, so.
Uhuru. Well, we are putting the state on trial. Everybody's got to be there September 3rd. We're going to get a lot more information about that. We want 1,000 people there at court demanding to get in and see this. And we will win. We are winning. Just really want to appreciate a great program today, Chairman. That was amazing. All of the speakers, and Comrade Jesse, that was powerful to get all of that analysis and understanding that you did put out. We are winning.
Relentless. Hands off Uhuru.
Hands off Africa. We met our goal, by the way. I had to say that.
Uhuru.
We went over our goal.
Yes, a total of $2,465. So I want to those who donated, Jesse, Janine, Zaki, Penny, Wendy, Brendan, and also Angelica and Wendy again. So some really powerful way to just kick this off and take us home. So yes, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. We will win. Touch one.
Touch them all.
Uhuru.